Stanshire. Bezuidenhout has urged the public to report any incidents.
We urge road users to proceed with extreme caution and to report any incidents or obstructions that they may witness to the city's Public Emergency Communication Centre on 021 480 7700. Also remember that where traffic lights are impacted by the weather, to treat those intersections as a four-way stop.
The Public Service Accountability Monitor, based at the Rhodes University in Makhanda, has called on the Eastern Cape government to explore other avenues to stimulate the province's crippled economy. The province is currently in a recession and shed more than 77,000 jobs in the last quarter. The Eastern Cape Socio-Economic Consultative Council put together an economic report detailing the province's economic decline. The director of the PSM, J. Cruz, has encouraged municipalities and the provincial government to take action in enhancing other sectors like tourism.
The PSM would also encourage the provincial government and municipalities to take action to enhance tourism in the province, which can readily contribute towards GDP growth. Improving the maintenance of district and mono roads will help communities in diverse ways and improve tourists' access to more remote attractions and create great opportunities for employment at hotels and lodges.
Finally, further afield, South Korea's government says all public school students must now attend classes on suicide prevention. It's part of the government's attempt to tackle high suicide rates among youth in South Korea. The BBC's Jae Sung Lee has details.
The program, which comes into effect this Friday, will teach pupils ways to manage mental health issues and provide practical guidance to support those exposed to high suicide risks. South Korea's education system is notorious for its long hours of studying and tough competition. Many students fail to cope under such pressures. A recent government report showed a quarter of middle and high school students suffer from depression. Suicide is the leading cause of death for Koreans between the ages of 9 and 24.
Recapping the top story, KwaZulu-Natal police say 2 homemade explosive devices have been found at a mosque in Greenwood Park in the north of Durban. Headlines at 3:30.
And coming up in your sports this hour, Sundowns confirm Godisang's signing and Athletics South Africa and SASCOC working together to prepare the relay team for the Olympics. More details at 3:30.
What do you want from an insurer? Affordable premiums and awesome service when you claim, right? Here's what real clients say about OUTsurance.
My name is Mpo. I'm 42 years old from Cape Town. I pay $495 per month for my Ford Figo 2014 with OUTsurance Essential Cover.
SMS out to 30754 and see if you can save. But you also want to know your claim is going to be settled without any issues. Every year, the Ombudsman for Short-Term Insurance releases a report showing how the country's insurers did. And when it came to claims, of all the major insurers, OUTsurance has had the fewest complaints referred by clients to the Ombudsman for the past decade. Now that's awesome claim service.
I'm not surprised OUTsurance had such few complaints because in my experience with OUTsurance, everything has been amazing.
Real savings, really happy clients. Go to outsurance.co.za right now for a 10-minute quote that could save you thousands. Licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
The world's best cooking show is coming to S3. MasterChef South Africa Season 5. You'll meet 20 talented home cooks from around Mzansi, Noma Uphumapi, and no matter your favorite dish. See if the chefs can handle the heat in the kitchen in a race to be crowned MasterChef South Africa. Starts Saturday 13 July at 7:30 p.m. on S3, Channel 193. MasterChef South Africa, proudly sponsored by Pick n Pay.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
What for you moves the National Pulse today? Every day, different things today. It could well be about the issue of the superfan and what that means, considering Gayton McKenzie, the newly appointed Minister, Sports, Arts and Cultures, not too happy with spending that sort of money around, supporting the super fan in terms of sport. So we'll talk about that with Sadam Marke coming up pretty shortly. First up, there's also the issues of the implications of those refugees that are set to go to Rwanda. How will that change now that Britain has a new government? You've heard the story all day on the news around the issues of this bomb being found, explosives being found at a mosque in Durban North. We'll talk about that. We'll also talk about the economic impact of KZN or Durban specifically 3 years after what happened. Well, 3 years ago, there was riots and so many other things that occurred around it. So we will talk about that too. We'll also talk about the judges. You know, the judges have been appointed to the Judicial Services Commission, not just judges, in fact, appointees from the political parties to the JSE. Let's get that right. We'll talk about that because there's been some opposition. John Slope is one of them. He's now appointed. What that really means. And as always, we'll have some fascinating thoughts around AI, artificial intelligence, and what that means and how it can well disrupt many of the existing things that we do. So all of that coming up. But you have your own thoughts about what moves the national pulse. And what about you, engaging me on it? I'd love to know. So to call in, it's 086 000 2032. You can WhatsApp, text, or voice note options. It's 0614 104 107. And you know that. You can use social media extensively throughout the show. Tweet, Facebook, Instagram, whatever it is, you'll find us, even on TikTok, by the way, SAFM Radio, as well as myself. So give us a shout out, say hi, give yourself a shout out. In fact, use the hashtag The National Pulse, and particularly wherever you may be in the country, sort of put your town on the map, man. Come on, we haven't had a listener saying, hi, I'm from Welkom in a long time, and it means welcome. So welcome to the show. And if you're listening in there, wherever you're in Welkom and other parts of the country, of course, just tell me who you are. Certainly would love to know. Let's get moving with my thoughts on the That's My Point feature. Now, this is Mandela Month, right? And part of that is doing something rather different. And one of the things that I thought about was, how do we create more jobs for people, particularly young South Africans? So I don't have the answers today, but I thought it's just sharing that. I want to just share a story, which is, I've heard in a book that I read a while back, and I just want to relate it, okay? So here's the story. Two people out in the jungle, they're backpackers. For whatever reason, they're walking in the jungle. Don't ask me why, but they're doing that, okay? And 100 meters away, they see a lion, and they know there's trouble. And the lion sort of shapes up to about to charge them. And these two guys who are backpackers, so they're wearing sandals, they know that their lives are in serious danger. And the one guy, in the midst of all this anger and anguish and sense of submission, really, the one guy has the time to remove his sandals and put on his shoes, his running shoes, right? And the other chommy laughs at him. It's like, you're such an idiot. I mean, the lion's 100 meters away from the two of us, and you've got the time to put on your running shoes. Why would you do something as stupid as that? And the other guy, the guy who was now put on the running shoes, says, but you see, my friend, you got it wrong. For me to stay alive, I don't need to be faster than the lion. I just need to be faster than you. Hope you got the message of that, to stay alive in business and to get a job, any job. Don't necessarily pitch for the very best job in the world right now when you don't have it. Determine what the weakest point is and try and be 1% better than the weakest point. And you're in business and you got a job. Like the guy in the jungle, he knew to stay alive, his weakest point was his chommy. If he was better than the chommy by 1%, he was alive, because the lion was never going to get both of them. They'll just attack one of them. Hopefully you got that lesson. That's an important lesson to learn. Perhaps you can share your own thoughts about how to keep one step ahead. That's my point. Now you tell me what's yours.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
Right, so add your thoughts. I'd love to know what for you would be, and maybe even your personal anecdote. Have you had an example when you got a job of how you determined what the weakest point in that business is, and you were able to pitch yourself and therefore get yourself into a position where you're given a job. That's really the type of Mandela moment I think I'd love to hear from you, and hopefully others can learn from that as well. So, welcome to the show. Welcome wherever you may be around the country. Let's talk about something that is a huge issue. We have this thing called super fan, which my understanding is South African supporters who go to watch sports games, mainly around the world when they represent South Africa, in the country as well, but mainly watching South Africa, rugby, cricket, maybe. I didn't see them at the Cricket World Cup, but maybe I'm wrong. But certainly rugby and football, when Bafana plays as well. And they've been doing that, and I'm not too sure what the contractual arrangement is, but it's not just they fans, they understand, effectively are hired, I heard, on behalf of whichever department to represent the best interests of South Africa and make sure that they project as this ultimate super fan. So that's fine. You can have this debate about whether it has merits. But now we've had the minister, the newly appointed Minister of Sports, Arts and Culture, Gayton McKenzie, who's like, no, I need to put a stop to this because there's funding that can be utilized elsewhere. So we thought, he's not talking now, but let's try and understand the story behind the whole concept of a super fan and what the implications are in terms of what the minister has just said. With me is like the ultimate super fan, Saddam Marke, who's the president of the South African National Supporters, SANASO, also known as the Superfans. Saddam, appreciate your time. You're connected to the National Pulse. Hi.
Thank you. Afternoon, and hello to you and listeners.
Thank you. So first things first, I mean, you've seen the tweet from Gayton McKenzie suggesting that he's going to put a stop to all of this, right? What's your response?
Yeah, I think the problem that is complicated to me because when I saw the Twitter, that means it's on the social media. If you can tell me that you interview him or you talk to him or you get an email from him, I will say something. But now it's difficult for me to answer because it's from the Twitter, not from him himself.
Okay, I hear you. I mean, clearly he's not talking now, but remember the Twitter is his verified Twitter account. So that means it is him talking. You know, he's saying exactly what it is he feels about it. So in that context, I mean, I'm not saying you must, but you could respond because it's him talking.
Yes, I think, I'm sorry to say that. I won't answer unless if you ask me directly about something, not related to the super fan as the president of SANASO, not to tell me what the minister said, because even myself, I never met him yet. It's just new from the office. And then I worked with a lot of previously ministry. I worked with the late Steve Sete as I sent a message. I worked with the Balfour, I worked with the Ntepa, Malula, and recently Mr. Zidikoda. So I never get a message to say, yes, the minister is say 1, 2, 3. If we got something, you can write it to our national support that he's got a complaint, he's got a suggestion, or he want change, whatever, or doing something else.
Okay, so look, this is what he's saying, right, on his Twitter account. I have stopped all trips for super fans. We have athletes and artists who are struggling to raise money to attend sporting events and exhibitions. How do we justify paying for fans? We shall no longer be paying for these trips, and we will use that money where it's needed the most. Now, as a super fan yourself, you may not have met Gayton McKenzie, the new minister, but surely you have an opinion on that.
Yeah, I don't know how can I say again. I repeat it again. I don't want to talk about somebody's behalf. I saw the Twitter. I even see the screen and the statement and everything. I posted on our financial national group to see. So I'm talking behalf of the supporter. I mean the super fan. I'm talking behalf of our organization. So I can't talk behalf of anyone.
All right, I hear you. So maybe let me just push this sideways to say, what for you is the role of a super fan? Surely you can talk about that. And how important is the super fan to South Africa when we play, particularly when we play outside our country?
So as a president of SANASO, when we play the games started around when national team plays, especially Bafana Banyana or any supper event or whatever. So we do have a super fan to go to support the team, but from the PSL supporters, not individual. All of us, we rotate, we get them, we get who's not making sometimes the game during the week, we attend the game. We get the bus from Sapa, and then we get the supporters, we go towards the game and support the game.
Okay, so that's in South Africa. And then sometimes some of you, I'm not too sure which one, some of you also travel overseas, right? How important is that in terms of when you have supporters traveling overseas, basically supporting, kuzaing your country? How important is that?
Yeah, I think, let's not say somebody. Talk about me. I travel 18 countries. 6 Africa, and 12 Africa, 6 overseas, 5 World Cups, including our 2010 World Cup. Talk about me. I'll answer if you talk about me. Don't say somebody, because I don't want to talk to somebody.
Okay, so let's talk about you then, right?
Yes.
When you go as a supporter, do you think you're providing value to the team when you are overseas in particular?
Yeah, yes, I do.
You think you're providing value. Now here's the other thing is, I certainly love watching all of you guys, and it's, you, Mama Joy, and it's really so joyous. But I'm talking about you. Sometimes when you go, do you get sponsored, whether it's SAFA or somebody else, or do you go off your own money? And well, maybe help us understand that.
Say it again.
When you support South Africa, Bafana, Springboks, in Africa and abroad, overseas, do you get sponsored for the flights and the hotels, or do you pay for it yourself? And if you don't pay for it yourself, it's understandable. It's very expensive. I can't afford it, right? Do you get sponsored to support them, and what do you feel about it?
I get the sponsors. I feel like yes, I'm presenting my country. I get the sponsors, yes.
Okay. And how do you, if the sponsor is a brand, whichever brand, that's between you and the brand, that's fine. If the sponsor is the Ministry of Sport and they don't want to sponsor you any longer, how do you feel about that?
I won't answer that one because you mentioned about the ministry or the whatever. I'm telling you that I've got a sponsor.
Okay, I understand that.
I didn't mention the name of the sponsor. I said for 18 countries that have been traveling, including overseas, whatever, I've got a sponsor. So that sponsor is my belong.
Okay, I understand that. How do if now again I'm talking about you very quickly, right? If someone says, we don't need to even sponsor Saddam. We don't need people like that to travel overseas. We rather, as a sponsor, take the money and give it to some sportsman who needs the money to become a better player. What do you feel about that?
If they tell me without sending a message, whatever, they tell me as we started, or maybe we agree, they can say, no, that was not a gentleman agreement. It was right in black and white. We are no longer going to use you because ABC. So now, if you tell me about something writing or maybe concern from the statement or WhatsApp or social media, I want. But if my sponsors come to me and say, we are no longer going to sponsor you, they will tell me why there is.
Yeah, but if they did that, how would you feel about it?
Depends what the reason was.
Okay. Here's the last thing. Do you think it is right to have super fans around the world, or do we not need them? And I'm talking about you. Them. You as a super fan, is it right that we use you to support our national team, or we don't need you?
We need them to support the national team. The national team, the players, they need us, we need them. This is our duty as the club players to support them. So if you can get a sponsor, I can get whatever, to say, President of South National, please bring 20 supporters or 5 or 10, whatever. We got offers to take the supporters, whatever, national team. I will open my hands and say, yes, at least take them to support our national team.
Okay, just very quickly, in 30 seconds, how are you helping the team win matches?
Sorry?
How do you help the team win matches?
You're talking about the local team or talk about
the country, when the country travels. How do you help the country? Yeah.
We say we have 12 players. Let me give you an example. When I travel to go to maybe like Morocco, I have to meet the people they got the embassy from South Africa is there. I have to go to embassy of South Africa there, meet them and see them, and then we create a group. We have supporters around there. The other supporters, they support national team, and then we start to support our team.
Okay.
Like now when we went to Ivory Coast, we
And
did
that's
the same.
all right. Saddam Marke, thanks for your time. Much appreciate you giving your input and your insight. It's certainly needed.
And we will buy 500 cars, and we will buy 500 more. Just to be the one who buys your car, will come to you and offer more. We buy cars, we buy cars. We buy cars, we buy cars.
We Buy Cars, the easiest way to sell your car by far. The inaugural Standard Bank Business and Commercial Banking Conference will take place from 10 to 12 July 2024 in Cape Town under the theme Africa Unlocked, Unlocking Africa's Growth. Tune in to The Full Circle with Bridget Masinga and The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda to get insights from the conference. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
Search Standard Bank Business and Commercial Banking. Standard Bank is an authorized FSP and registered credit provider.
What is Ushuni, you say? Ushuni has a musical gift and can transform a song. Ushuni can fuse folk music with a popular urban beat or tune. Ushuni can take us on a beautiful musical journey. Ushuni way to Gelo. Join us in unearthing South Africa's next folk music star. 40 talented contestants from around South Africa competing for the ultimate grand prize of 500,000 Rand cash and a recording deal. Angeke basikhone with Ushuni Womhlaba, starting 7 July, Sundays at 6 p.m. only on SABC1.
X at SAFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda.
Right, lots of people wish to comment on that super fan issue, and we will take your calls and we'll take your WhatsApps as soon as we can. But you can also tweet right away. Some people are doing so anyway, right? You can tweet, tag SFM Radio and tag myself, Ashraf Garda. Do use the hashtag The National Pulse when you do that. Let's move on to other issues as part of our Global Watch feature. We know that we now have a new Prime Minister in Britain. That's Keir Starmer. And his government will not continue, and this is important, with the previous policy by the Conservative Party government to deport asylum seekers to Rwanda. Now, whether deport is the right word, I don't know, but here's the bottom line. Refugees from other parts of the world came to Britain, which Britain accepted, and then Britain made a deal with Rwanda, and I think paid them to say, can you now take into custody, if that's the right word, look after these refugees for us. And there's been a big outcry around that. So I understand there's a bit of a change. So let's find out what that really means with Dr. Vusimuzi Sibanda, who's the chairperson of the African Diaspora Global Network. Dr. Sibanda, thanks for joining us on the National Pulse.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon to your listeners.
Thank you. Right, what do you... can you take it as a change, and what do you feel about that change?
Look, there is always something that is very interesting with politicians when it's going towards elections. They come up with all these funny policies, which they know that they are not sustainable, they will not really succeed. They know that they violate, the law because they are trying to reach out to that niche of the electorate, which is probably, right-wing extremists. So this is what we have seen happening, in a bit of a while in quite a number of countries. What now? This basically means that whole, issue where there was so much money spent in going to courts and building properties in Rwanda is practically dead because the new UK Prime Minister says he's not going to follow up on that. I mean, it's not worth it. It's wasted a lot of money, and that's what we expected. And he knows that even when the matter goes to court, that will not succeed.
And yet, the reality is there was no government change. That was going to happen, isn't it? And what did you feel if it was going to go ahead in the first place?
Well, look, I think, remember what we had the last time, I'm not sure if we spoke here, is that when there was a challenge in court and then the minister, the prime minister came and said this is going to happen. So we're looking forward again to a challenge because once these things, come up to a point and these politicians will always come up with something going towards, elections so that they know, in fact, that, by the time that the final court ruling comes up, the elections are come and gone. And if they have won, they'll basically say, well, look, we got defeated, at the polls, or rather by the courts that then ruled against us because we could not do that. So the whole idea is always calculations.
Okay, so now that's changed. But one of the biggest protests around the original plan was from human rights groups, probably people like yourself, to say fundamentally you as a country do a good thing and you accept refugees, and the key word is refugees, right? They have had problems in their own country and they're to flee to another place for safety. You accept them, and then you don't really want to look after them, so you make a deal with some other guys and say, listen, we'll pay you, can you look after them? That, fundamentally that is wrong, isn't it?
Yes, look, the issue, to make matters worse, it was actually also saying, what is Rwanda's human rights record? It doesn't matter how much money you want to pour into Rwanda. We know there's a lot of things, developmental, that are being said about Rwanda and all this and that, but we are saying that what is the human rights record for that particular country, and are these refugees and asylum seekers going to be safe and properly protected and looked after in the manner or the standard of living that they have managed to do, because you are compliant. You look at countries like UK, Canada, and other European countries in America that have been doing quite well, including South Africa. We talk about this. We've seen this happening in South Africa. It was a bit late, delayed, especially in terms of dealing with asylum seekers. But we've got courts that have shown a lot of sanity and protected the right of asylum seekers. So we're saying, how do you then all of a sudden go and make a deal with a country like Rwanda that has no record at all, that is positive in dealing with asylum seekers?
Well, why do you think Rwanda accepted the deal in the first place? From the Rwandan side, what was in it for them?
Publicity. Politically, it gives a good scoring rate that, look, we've had people being sent to us. That's the first one. The second one, lots and lots of money and houses being built. Right now, lots of houses were built for Rwanda, and you can't go in and undo that. It doesn't matter now. Rwanda has benefited, so they were smart about it. So they've got new facilities that they were built for them, using that money, and much money was given to them. You can't go now and claim that money. Rwanda has used it.
So let's put people and refugees at the center of this conversation, because ultimately it is about them. So, option A was get sent to Rwanda for a better life for you. The option B is stay put in Britain, in the UK. How are their lives going to change now? New government, they're not sending them to Rwanda, but what are they going to do ultimately, having taken them in, to ensure that they do have this better life for all?
Well, what's going to happen now is that UK must now determine, their asylum requests in terms of, the asylum refugee laws, in terms of the convention, the 1951 convention, and those that qualify, for refugee will be given refugee. Ultimately, they may become permanent residents and citizens of, the United Kingdom, and, continue with their lives in the United Kingdom rather than go to Rwanda.
Yeah, and is there anything else out of the conversation just since the government changed that you'd like to bring to our attention?
Well, look, the important thing is basically that, we're happy that, this is what we've been saying, and we've been saying that it will not pass muster when it comes, to court again. And, we are happy because now what it means is that the vulnerable people are protected, and they will not be sent to any other country that does not comply with the United Nations conventions on refugees and asylum seekers. And we are also, hopeful that the same thing continues to happen, like here in South Africa, where we have got the white paper that was mulled by, the former Minister of Home Affairs, which we hope that is going to be now, water under the bridge and dead or still best, because it was seeking to cause a lot of confusion. And hopefully the NCO as well will see that policy is not helping, and seeing that it's got only 40%, and, that it's anti-migrant, approach that seeks basically to please a particular niche is not going to succeed.
And we certainly need to keep our pulse on that story, absolutely. Dr. Vusimusi Sibanda, appreciate your time, chairperson of the African Diaspora Global Network. We're still going to we'll talk to Yusuf Desai, the trustee of the Durban North Mosque. That mosque, they found an explosive. Big story around that. Should schools be closed during the winter season? Yes, no. I wonder what you think about that. So let's get to the news headlines now. I was wondering, when am I going to cross to Utsile Sako on my way back to SFM? Well, today is day one. Hi, Utsile.
Thanks, Ashraf. In the headlines at 3:30, the Umlalazi local municipality in Eshowe in northern KwaZulu-Natal says one person has died in a wildfire that started on Sunday night. Over 80 homes were damaged in the area. KwaZulu-Natal police say 2 homemade explosive devices have been found at a mosque in Greenwood Park in the north of Durban. And Australia's Cyber Intelligence Agency has warned that state-backed Chinese hackers are repeatedly exploiting vulnerabilities in Australia and across the Asia-Pacific region. I'll be back with a full bulletin at 4 o'clock.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Khapele.
Right, one Minister of Sport making pronouncements about the Superfan. The other Minister of Sport is seated next to me in studio. How is it to me?
A very good afternoon to you, Ashraf, and a good afternoon to our listeners. Let's start things off with football. Mamelodi Sundowns have signed Kabomelo Godisang for the new season. He joins the star-studded squad to provide competition on the right wing, but can play anywhere across the forward three. Now, Godisang arrived from Portugal, having spent the last 6 years in that country, and he made his professional debut at Platinum Stars at the age of 15 back in the 2015-16 season, and then spent 2 years with Digwena before making the move to Bidvest Wits and then moving abroad. In the meantime, newly appointed Simba SC coach Fadlu Davids has explained why he accepted the challenge in Tanzania. The 43-year-old former striker spent the previous season in Morocco as an assistant to Joseph Zimbawa, winning the league and cup double.
It's been an absolute crazy last week, but now just driving in Dar es Salaam traffic at the moment. Yeah, it's been we've been here before with Pirates. We played them in the quarter-final of the CAF that season when we gone into the final and lost against Burkan. So quite familiar with the environment, quite familiar with the stadium and the fanatical supporters. So gave me a bit of a taste that experience, but now being here, being on the ground, it's a unique experience.
In athletics South Africa have launched Project Relay. This is after a disappointing performance at last year's World Senior Championships in Budapest. The relay teams have struggled with proper baton exchanges, often making mistakes of school-level errors. And in response, the Athletics South Africa president Moloi requested funding from the SA Sports Confederation and Olympic Committee for a training camp, which has since resulted in 2 successful camps in Tshwane and Potchefstroom.
As said, we sat down with SASCOC and we explained to SASCOC to say, please, we have done our part from your party just to be able to sponsor this because we're giving the athletes back to you. Now you have to play your part in terms of putting the camp together. They've agreed to say, no, it's good for us, and then we're going to put that one. From our side, we have played our part. We handed back the athletes back to SASCOC, but SASCOC give us a surety that now the team is everything is 100%. They are going to pay everything, so we are very excited.
Well, the relay teams are considered genuine medal contenders and represent South Africa's best hopes for a medal in track events. Moloi has made significant efforts to ensure that they have a strong chance of competing against the powerhouse teams from Jamaica and United States in the relay.
Everything is in order. Our athletes are going to be happy. Now it will be up to the athletes now because SASCOC have played their part from day one, from last year till date. So we will see, and then we are saying thank you to SASCOC for supporting us from A up to Z, not letting us down. But we're expecting our athletes to do their best in terms of getting something out of it.
Absolutely looking forward to seeing how they're going to compete at the Olympics. We've been seeing how Kani Simbini has been doing well, but as a team, a relay team, and he's been also very vocal about how he feels that Athletics South Africa is not helping them as a team to prepare themselves for the relays. I mean, you do remember that performance was absolutely embarrassing, but now with SASCOC also joining hands with Athletics South Africa, perhaps they'll do better.
And somehow the Minister of Sport will get involved in all of this.
Absolutely.
Okay, how many days to the Olympic Games?
17 days to go.
And you haven't had the ticket. You're not going.
No
not,
ticket.
Not even as a super fan.
Not even as a super fan.
Why don't you tweet Gayton McKenzie? I'm sure he'll let you go.
I don't think I'm going to survive on that note.
What do you think? Any thoughts on the superfan argument that he's saying I'll pull the plug on the superfan?
For me, I think it's a two-sided thing because Gayton definitely makes a good case for this, because how do you send fans abroad while there are athletes or artists that are needing funding? However, on the other side of things, these super fans, in a way, they're also like the brand ambassadors for South Africa. And in terms of the different sports, not every South African is able to fly abroad to go and support our team. And with you questioning Saddam in terms of the value that they add, I think one thing he said is that we help them win. And you're like, how do you help them win? Sometimes the 12th man actually can help a team win.
But what about if they have 1,012 men? Like, what I'm saying is, I'm not dissing what Saddam says or anybody else, but instead of taking 1 or 2 people, imagine they take 500 people from the township who could never ever afford it, and you get them subsidized rates, nothing fancy, no fancy hotels, and they actually go and 1,000 people watch, the Springboks or the cricketers of Bafana playing abroad.
I mean, that's
Wouldn't
an idea.
That be more? I'd be thrilled if I was a player.
That is absolutely an idea, but I guess it's also an opportunity for corporate to come on board if we still want to see our super fans going to support our teams, to say, listen, we'll come in and sponsor you guys.
In fact, Saddam Hussein, Saddam Marke, he says he's got a sponsor. Somehow we need to check the brand SA as well, because I think all of that is very, very linked. So that story, TBC, to be continued.
I mean, I remember talking to Mama Joy last year, and she did mention some sponsors also helping her to go and support Bafana or the Springboks. But I also feel like Minister Gayton McKenzie would never say, I'm stopping funding for the superfans if there was no money that was paid for the superfans to go abroad and support South African teams.
Then you'd just be too happy that they're going. I mean, I can think of many. Kaya Sitoli is a superfan and he doesn't get paid. I don't think so. He goes on his own. These guys go and watch sport all around the world. I'd love to be a superfan. I'm prepared to pay for it. They can just subsidize me. Not with the Minister of Sport, just as chommies. That's another whole conversation. Okay, more sports in an hour.
Absolutely.
Right? And we know that many people want to comment on the superfan. Yes, superfan, no issue. Feel free to do that. I'll take your calls and your WhatsApp messages as soon as I can.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the M24 in Centurion is closed between Swartkorp's entrance and Alariac Road due to a road collapse incident, and Eskom Patleli Drive northbound in Pretoria has delays towards Mood Street. In KZN, the M13 on Hillcrest on Wednesday will be closed at Cassie Road from 9 a.m. until 3 p.m. for bridge repair works. Traffic will be diverted via the ramps. The N2 southbound is slow moving towards Spaghetti Junction, and the N3 inbound has heavy traffic towards Spaghetti Junction due to a police incident. In the Eastern Cape, the N2 southbound has sea debris reported on the roadway between John Talent Road and the M4 Settlers Way split. On the R61, the road collapse incident reported between Mthatha and Port St. John's has stop-go controls at 2 locations and trucks are prohibited. In Cape Town, on the M3 inbound, there's flooding between UCT and Hospital Bend. The N2 inbound has ramp closure with no access to Borchards Quarry Road off-ramp due to flooding. Broadlands Road in Strand is flooding near Broadway Boulevard. Marine Drive in Pardon Island is flooding in that area. Newlands Avenue is flooding. That's in the Newlands area, and you're asked to expect delays and diversions there. Then 35th Avenue southbound, flooding reported in the Bishop Lavis area. The road's been closed off, so you're asked to expect delays and diversions, and flooding with widespread flooding, in fact, reported in that Nyanga Guguletu areas. Steve Biko Drive also has flooding reported near Guguletu Square. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
Get ready to make your life easier with TV License's new website features. We upgraded to the secure iVery 3D payment gateway and the ability to manage your account information, view, print, and download a detailed TV license statement. You can make website queries for an account and technical support, which has made things immensely easier. It is now a smooth, effortless process that can respond to all user inquiries quickly and efficiently. It is a great way to quickly get the help you need without worrying about a thing. Get started now and enjoy the convenience of TV License's new website features. Visit www.tvlic.co.za today. TV Licenses, do it for the convenience that matter.
In the heart of darkness, a beacon of light emerges. A brand new season is coming your way with your 2024 Miss South Africa Top 30. Hosted by our reigning queen, Miss South Africa, we embark on a transformative journey. Join us for the spectacular new season of Crown Chasers.
Crown Chasers is back.
Starts 29 June at 8:30 p.m. only on S3 Open Up.
So the very first one, the number one Standard Bank Business and Commercial Banking Conference will take place starting tomorrow. In fact, the very first time we're doing so, from the 10th to the 12th of July, right? So it's in Cape Town, and the theme is Africa Unlocked, Unlocking Africa's Growth. And you can tune into two shows, The Full Circle, hosted by Bridget, as well as The National Pulse, which I'll be hosting, to gain insights from the conference. In fact, not just on the show here, but specifically in Cape Town on Thursday. We'll be there. I'll be there. Come and say hi. Let's get to other issues now. The issue of Superfan. Lots of people have opinions. Pumlani, hi.
Hi, Ashraf. How are you?
Yeah, good talking to you. I'm very well. Go ahead. What's your point?
It's my first time on the national.
Well, there we are. Welcome. Welcome indeed.
Sure.
You're a super fan, that means.
Kind of.
Yeah.
Although I'm a big fan of boxing.
Well, there you are.
Okay. Ashraf, I think, number one, Saddam, he's out of order. He should not have agreed to the interview if he was not going to answer your question, because it's a simple question as to whether he agrees or disagrees with the minister. But anyway, this is what I think. I think the issue of superfans having to travel internationally is a good one, in that I see it as promotion of the country, South Africa. I see them as an advert of South Africa, as a window to SA. When people internationally look at them, they see a reflection as to what South Africa is like. And they then would take an interest in the country and possibly want to travel to South Africa, which would be a boost to tourism. And number two, Mama Joy even found love in France because she was the cameraman's favorite there. So that became an international story, which was good. But I agree with the minister in that this thing must be looked into, because you can't have the same people traveling. I think rather we must rotate, look at other fans as well, not only Mama Joy or Saddam. It's not their birthright to travel.
But okay, so let me interject you quickly, because of time. So the principle of having supporters support our country anywhere in the world, you agree and I agree. I think spot on, right? The principle of and the more supporters, the better. Now, we know it's expensive. Otherwise, you and I would go every week, and we just can't do that, right? The next point is, do we need ambassadors? Paid for ambassadors, or if not paid for, on a trade exchange deal where they effectively still subsidize to go. Is that important in terms of the image of the country, and does that actually help the teams win tournaments? That's really the big issue.
No, I don't think it adds that much value. I don't think it makes the teams win. I think I sort of agree with the minister that we should scrap this thing. It's the only positive, like I said, it's just that it's a window to SA. But we can't have one or two people traveling to say they promote South Africa. Rather, we just cancel the whole concept. It's a good one, but to say they are the 12th man, how can one person in a stadium full of 90,000 people be the 12th man? Can't be.
Well, there you are. You are my super fan. Thank you very much for your call and keep on calling. Much appreciated. There we are. Interesting one indeed. I'll take more thoughts. I want to get that. And here's the thought. I'll put out a vote line just now, not quite now, in a few minutes' time, on my Twitter or X account, and we'll get SFM Radio to share that as well. Which is, so Gaten McKenzie says he stopped it. He hasn't said I'm thinking about it. He said I've stopped it. So do you think that's a good thing, or do you think it's a bad thing? In fact, you can WhatsApp right away and give me your opinion even now, 0614 104 107, besides others who may want to add to that vote line on the Twitter or X platform. Okay, let's move on to other issues of importance. You may have heard about this, and it's very, very disturbing. I saw this note via WhatsApp earlier this morning, and I'm like, no, man, that's not true. But it clearly looks like it is true, so I understand. 2 homemade explosive devices were found at a mosque in Durban North. This was overnight or yesterday. And the mosque has now heightened security measures, urging anyone with information or motives behind the bombing attempt or who may have been in the vicinity during the incident to contact law enforcement agencies or the mosque themselves directly. So what's the actual issue that's happened? What's the safety issue? And what's the story behind the story? Hopefully we get some answers. I don't know. With Yusuf Desai, who was the trustee of the Durban North Mosque. Yusuf, welcome to the National Pulse. Hello.
Thank you. Hi. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi,
Okay.
Much
appreciated. So firstly, let's just give me the details here in terms of what was actually found.
All right. Early hours of Monday morning, what happened is one of our security guards was startled with regards to a car approaching the mosque. Now, obviously, the mosque gates are closed around that time. And he witnessed a guy getting out of the car and trying to plant something around the shrubs just before the gate. So he was a bit surprised, what is this? And as he walked around the mosque to the exit gate to see what's happening, and these guys were startled and they came by car. And what happened is they got into the car and they sped off. So he phoned one of the trustees to say, listen, something weird happened outside the mosque. So around 6 o'clock when the congregants get there, and they spotted some 30 meters of wiring and some sort of a bundle, electronic and a plastic thing there. And they didn't take it too seriously, exactly what it could be. However, when they called the police, the SEPs, and they came, Hawks came, and they spotted the look. It's an incendiary device. It's a bomb. And this startled everybody that why would somebody do something that outside a mosque? We are there for 7-8 years in the community, and we have a good cordial relationship with the community as such. We do a lot of social work from there. And the mosque was closed around the mid-prayer, and the bomb squad came in and they removed the suspicious item, and now everything's under investigation at the moment.
All right, so, to ask the obvious thing, do you have any idea who the person or the persons were in that car? And can you put a description in terms of where they're...
At this point in time, we're not going to disclose anything. We have some camera footage, but we don't want to sort of disturb the ongoing investigation by the police. But this is what I can tell you is it's definitely an Islamophobic attack. Make no mistake about it. People are taking it a bit lightly, saying, no, it could be something very light, but I don't think so. This is the second Islamophobic attack in Durban for the last 2-3 months. Remember, the one took place in Glenwood, where the guy stabbed the mother and the son, and that's an ongoing case at the moment. But it could be anything. It could be a lone wolf, it could be a syndicate trying to do something, trying to create some sort of a rift, animosity between the mosque and the community at large, because we have an excellent relationship. During the looting some time ago, the mosque was used as a center and as a base for security. Muslims and non-Muslims use the place for 2 weeks. Whenever there's a water shortage, water tankers outside the mosque, and immediately the community knows, hey, the mosque will have water. There's a borehole there. If there's any food needed, the mosque distributes food from there. If there's any marriage counseling to be done, it's done from the mosque. So the mosque has sort of gained some trust with the community.
As I think one would expect. To be fair, whether it's a mosque or a mandir or a synagogue or a church, that's what you would expect. But let me just rewind back to what you said earlier on. You said it's definitely a Islamophobia attack, right? What gives you that evidence or that confidence to say just that?
Why the mosque? Why the mosque? Are they envious of the progress the mosque is doing in terms of social services? It could be a lone wolf. Is it because of any international issues, or is it because the Muslims are moving to the area? The mosque is the main road. Why the mosque now? Madrasa starts today. It starts today, and kids go back to madrasa classes, when school starts. So, what else could it be? Why would they flee when they saw the guard? Why would that happen? It's 40 meters of wire. They were going to sort of detonate it when probably the adherents come to the mosque around 6 o'clock for prayer. Somebody could have got hurt quite bad. Somebody could have died. It could be under the car, near the gate. So,
I understand that.
Nobody has. Well, the mosque has no enemies as such. You know what I'm
Well, I
saying?
mean, I hear you. I'm just
Very
trying to
good
get some
relationship.
balance of
Very
understanding
good.
it. There could always be someone, but here's the point, right? If you're saying it's definitely an Islamophobia thing, the next question then would be that then who would be the perpetrators? I mean, what would, if they're, what would be their motive and who would they be? Do you have any idea? Can you tell us anything?
Look, we have a brief description of the perpetrators from the guard, whatever he's described to us, but we can't disclose it now because it's such an investigation in terms of racial profile. So, as I said, it doesn't make sense. Why would this happen exactly? Why would this happen?
Okay.
But look, there could be a third force. There could be a third force trying to create some sort of animosity between the community as such. And look, there's a statement that's going to be released very soon from the interfaith group, the synagogue, the church, and Hindu community. They will make a statement that, listen, we've had good cordial relationships with the Muslim community here, and they have the mosque is open for any discussion, for any viewing, and we have a good relationship. We're always in communication with each other. And why would this happen now? That's a good question. Your guess is as good as mine.
All right. What about in terms of the explosives, right? What can you tell us about the size or the value in terms of how dangerous it is? That means, have the police or the bomb experts indicated the type of potential damage it may have caused if it went off?
Yes. In fact, when they saw it, they were quite startled when the bomb squad came in. And they said it could have blown up the entire front gate and a substantial portion of the mosque. Now, the mosque is about 10 meters away from the gate. So, I mean, if it could blow up some substantial part of the mosque, then it's quite a big explosive. It's like the size of a shoebox, roughly. There were two items there, like a plastic explosive, and the other one had some sort of, electronic gadget or whatever it is. And about 40 meters of wire. So the mere fact that they were willing to stand far if they had to detonate it. So they knew the danger of the explosive.
Yeah. I hear you.
They knew the impact it would create.
All right. Last thing, clearly there'll be further investigations from the police, and we certainly get updates on that as and when it comes, right? But here's the last thing. So you've got two urgent needs. One is security, and if, as you're saying, you believe you're being targeted, right, very intentionally so, then the question is who would that be? And then not only to secure your mosque, but to secure other mosques. And linked to that is your drive around interfaith coming together. So what's likely to happen in the next 24 hours?
All right. So basically in terms of security, we've increased security in the area. We've got the volunteers from the mosque who will be manning the area. And you're right in saying that, listen, besides other mosques, I think also, not only mosques, even churches, temples, and synagogues, they should also heighten the security. Because if there are mischief makers out there who want to create some sort of split, and this is how third forces operate as such. They should also, because they could plant a bomb there, they plant a bomb in another religious institution and say, hey, listen, there's something going on over here. So I think everybody should be under heightened security.
Okay, creating enemies amongst friends is what you should do. All right, Yusuf Desai, thank you for your time, trustee of the Durban North Mosque. But just again, thank goodness nobody got hurt. I understand that part. That's really important because of the timing. But it is a cause for serious concern. What therefore do you make of the discovery around these explosives at this mosque in Durban North? Any thoughts, any comments, any opinions? What's your point? 0614 104 107 or to call in 086 000 2032.
Ashraf Garda on SAFM.
Right, let's talk about schools. It's been rather brr at the moment. It's been cold, and for many people, it's like the first day of school. And I've certainly had conversations in family groups, WhatsApp groups, like, maybe the kids can stick around for a couple of days, isn't it? Maybe the school should close a few days longer, which got us thinking about this issue, that understandably that, winter kicks in officially in June, but July, I understand, is like the coldest month of the 3 months that make up winter. So should schools then reflect that reality and then ensure that children have their school holidays in July and not in the last week or two of June, so that they can spend more time at home? Let's try and understand this with Henrik Makadneta, who's an education activist. Henrik, good chatting to you on the National Pulse.
Thank you. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you. So what's your thoughts about, I won't say cancelling schools in winter, but certainly shifting the calendar somewhat to avoid a July winter going to school?
Well, I don't think there would be a problem if all stakeholders agree to that. But you'll remember that ever since the dawn of, since we grew up, it has always been the case that the June holidays are there, and then July or mid-July rather. In the past, we used to reopen mid-July, but then it was taken a bit back, like 9 July today, the schools have reopened. But you're quite right. Winter can be terrible at times, especially today. Was very hectic. And, seeing the little ones, the grade R learners, having to wake up very early in the morning to go to school, you really feel sorry for them. Because in the process, they can also catch flu. Because indeed it is very, very cold.
But, is there a valid case for a shifting of the calendar? And as you do so, it has other implications.
Well, to be quite honest with you, shifting it, could have consequences. Because remember, the term one, we have got the first term of the year, and the first term has got 10 weeks, of teaching and learning. And that's how it is designed. Because if you take it, if you move it forward to say that learners should close rather in July, this actually means it will affect the cycle. It means instead of starting early in January, again, they'll have to start at a later date, if you understand what I mean. Because like I said, every term, there are 4 terms in a year, and every term has got 10 weeks of teaching and learning. And so it will definitely affect the entire academic year. You'll have to revise your annual teaching plans, to start at a later date. And so it's always good if learners start earlier, in January.
So that has other implications. People coming back early from holidays and they don't really want that. So the point, therefore, is this simple talk, or you think it actually has got some practical weight to it, that it can be done?
It can be done, but like I said, it will have to affect, because if you look at term 4, for example, they normally start in somewhere in October, beginning of October or late September. In this case, this year, the schools will close on the 20th of September. That will be the end of term 3. Now, if you start term 4, if you shift this, from June to July, it means you are also technically shifting the dates from October. It means learners will have to probably start term 4 in November, which is a bit too late. Because you are left with only a month, basically.
Yeah, so there are lots of complexities around that, Okay, let's leave it at that. Whether we're all reacting just because there's this crazy cold snap at the moment or not, but the reality is, many say these things recur every year. It's going to happen again and again and again. Hendrik Makaneta, appreciate your time. Thank you for that. So here's some thoughts. Let me just pick out some questions. So Ashraf, we all know Islamic and violence goes hand in hand. I strongly believe it is them. I don't think they are targeted, but it is one of them. Homemade bombs are not popular in our societies, so that's what I say. It's an inside job from Matthew in Pretoria. Matthew, I would ask you the same question. What's your evidence? A lot of guesswork in that comment, right? And we've asked the questions around. Here's another one. Saddam Gayton is right. That money could be used for uplifting and training poorer young black players in their respective, sports, it says. That's from Errol in Durban. Here's another one about the bomb.
Ashraf, let me help that gentleman out. You see that bomb was planted there. It was for a specific person. That was the target. It's clear. It's nothing to do with Islamophobia and all of that. It was planted close to the gate. They would have waited for someone to come, whoever the target was, 40 meters of wire, he said. So, yeah, they would have exploded as soon as that person came to mosque. They should look that way.
Well, the trustee from the mosque, Yusuf Desai, made some statements. Some of them are very, generalized statements that are very difficult to say that's the reality. We've had the previous WhatsApp I've just read. That's, again, a very generalized one. And maybe yours is the same. Like, if that one person is targeted, then why target in a public surrounding? Why can't you be very specific? Because who knows why that person will walk down that way, keeping in mind you're going to have other casualties as well. Think about it, but keep the calls coming. This is the National Pulse. Let's reflect just that. Let's get the news now. It's 4 o'clock with Utsile.
Thank you, Ashraf. Top stories this hour: one person killed in KZN wildfire and explosive devices found at a Durban mosque. Good afternoon. The Umlalazi local municipality in Eshowe in northern KwaZulu-Natal says one person has died in a wildfire that started on Sunday night. Over 80 homes were damaged in the area. Other affected municipalities include Mtonjaneni and Nkandla. Some farms in the area have also been destroyed. Umlalazi Mayor Queen Ulu is appealing for help from the provincial government.
Umlalazi is the hardest hit under the King Kejoi district. Over 15 wards have been affected. Ward 1 is the worst affected. Many homes here have been burned. People have also lost their livestock and vehicles they use for businesses. Those who have sugarcane and forest plantations have been severely affected. Help is really needed. We are really affected.
Ward 1 councillor in the Umlalazi local municipality in Jabulus Bia says the area is prone to wildfires, especially during winter. Spia is appealing to local government to assist.
It started at 8 at night. We noticed that it was bright outside. When we opened the door, we realized it was a field fire. We tried to extinguish the fire and we thought that we were successful. So my father and uncle went inside the hut to get our IDs and other important documents. Little did we know that the fire was still continuing. So that is how he died.
KwaZulu-Natal police say 2 homemade explosive devices have been found at a mosque in Greenwood Park in the north of Durban. KZN police spokesperson Jay Naika says the suspects were in Kenneth Kaunda Road when a security vehicle drove past them. He says they fled and threw the explosive devices into the mosque's premises. Naika says it would appear that the suspects were on their way somewhere when they were spotted by the security guard.
Police bomb technicians confirmed that it was homemade explosive devices that consisted of commercial explosives. The devices were not set up to explode. It's suspected that the men were en route to an unknown location with the devices when they were disturbed by security officers. Investigations to locate the suspects are ongoing. We commend the security officer who found the devices as he did not touch them and immediately alerted authorities.
The Public Service Accountability Monitor, the PSM, based at the Rhodes University in Makhanda, has called on the Eastern Cape government to explore other avenues to stimulate the province's crippled economy. The province is currently in a recession and shed more than 77,000 jobs in the last quarter. The Eastern Cape Socio-Economic Consultative Council put together an economic report detailing the province's economic decline. The director of the PSM, Jay Cruz, has encouraged municipalities and the provincial government to take action in enhancing other sectors like tourism.
The PSM would also encourage the provincial government and municipalities to take action to enhance tourism in the province, which can readily contribute towards GDP growth. Improving the maintenance of district and runner roads will help communities in diverse ways and improve tourists' access to more remote attractions and create great opportunities for employment at hotels and lodges.
And finally, further afield, Australia's Cyber Intelligence Agency has warned that state-backed Chinese hackers are repeatedly exploiting vulnerabilities in Australia and across the Asia-Pacific region. The Australian Signals Directorate, with input from the US, Britain and others, pinned the attacks on the APT40 hacking group. The BBC's Phil Messer has the details.
The allegation is this hacking group, supported by the Chinese government, has been targeting old and neglected computers still connected to sensitive networks. The allegation is that these hackers have been trying to plunder sensitive information. But of course, these sorts of public advisories do carry a risk in upsetting China.
Recapping the top story, the Umlalazi local municipality in Eshowe, northern KwaZulu-Natal, says one person has died in a wildfire that started on Sunday night. Over 80 homes were damaged in the area. Headlines at 4:30.
In sports, Erasmus names unchanged box side. India women won toss and elect to bowl first against the Proteas women. And Maruma Gallant's boss, Abraham Sillo, speaks on buying status. More details at 4:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the M1 southbound in central Johannesburg is slow moving towards Crown Interchange, and Jan Smuts Avenue northbound in Dunkel West has a crash reported near Kent Road. In KZN, the N2 southbound is slow moving towards Spaghetti Junction. The N3 westbound in Camperdown has a crash reported just before Umlaas Road exit. In Cape Town, slow moving traffic reported in the Newlands area. Lisbeck Parkway northbound in Mowbray is flooding, with the road being closed towards Durban. Main Road outbound in Observatory is slow moving towards the N2 highway, and Voortrekker Road eastbound is slow moving through Maitland. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
In South Africa, 1 in 5 children under the age of 13 is overweight or obese. Sign a petition to demand strong warning labels on unhealthy packaged food. And don't forget to catch the next episode of Chew on This at healer.org on Thursday, 27 June from 3 p.m. Young people tell us how big food companies are feeding them lies.
The inaugural Standard Bank Business and Commercial Banking Conference will take place from 10 to 12 July 2024 in Cape Town under the theme Africa Unlocked, Unlocking Africa's Growth. Tune in to the Full Circle with Bridget Masinga and the National Pulse with Ashraf Garda to get insights from the conference. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
Search Standard Bank Business and Commercial Banking. Standard Bank is an authorized FSP and registered credit provider.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
So two of the big stories that moves the National Pulse today. One is the issue of the superfans, as per Gayton McKenzie, saying, that's it, I've stopped all trips for superfans. That's the one thing. The other one is this bomb or explosive found at a mosque in the Durban North. And what do you make of that? Not much comment at the moment about John Slaughter, who's now part of the Judicial Services Commission. There's been criticism, however, and complaints from many political parties, amongst them the DA, for example. So we'll talk about those things too. And then feel free to comment, as always, on all these issues. And you can also tweet and post on the SFM Radio Facebook page too. But let's talk about Eskom. So we've celebrated no load shedding 100 days. I did say the other day, how do you celebrate 100 days? Perhaps you have a candle at dinner, something like that. No, bit of a sense of humor, you got that. But there's been issues that there's no load shedding, but it doesn't mean there are not many parts of the country that are experiencing, they're not experiencing blackouts. They are experiencing just that. We'll talk about that in a moment. Yes, further comment on the Minister of Sport.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. No, Gayton McKenzie is spot on. Now, the only thing that he needs to check now, it's the criteria that was used for these guys to be picked to go there. If it was unlawfully done so, they need to pay the money back. We don't care who they are.
Well, I don't know about needing to pay it back. If it's a contract, it's a contract. Whether you get overpaid on a contract or if anything, that's a contract. I don't think that's the issue. Let's get another thought moving sideways on the issue of that bomb story in Durban North.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. You know that bomb story? Maybe it was self-planted just to create a hype about people against Islam or anything like that. Sometimes people do strange things. Yeah, that's just a conspiracy theory. But, who knows? Maybe it was just being stored there. Maybe it was actually built by someone from the mosque and was then going to be used elsewhere. Who knows? And the wire was just left there for detonation as if it was going to be for someone at the mosque.
Well, you know what? I mean, I hear you. There's been so many generalizations, and yours is another one. Like, I might promise you, the callers we've had, the WhatsApps we've had, and then even the trustee from the mosque, I think there are lots of generalizations, and nobody really knows the facts. So I'd say that saying it's definitely Islamophobia, I think is a generalization. Saying that somebody would have planted it there to eliminate another person only is another generalization. Saying, as you've said, they're taking advantage of a situation to try and create the hype around Islamophobia is another generalization. And there's a few more. I think what we do know is an explosive was planted there. And why do you do that? I mean, you don't do it for show. There's a reason why you do that. And perhaps if we know more about that, that's what we need to be talking about. So on the Judicial Services Commission issue, here's one comment.
Ashraf, good afternoon. A quick one. I thought that El Jamaa was part of Government of Unity, or it's my confusion. I said that because I just saw them now voting for Hlope to join the judiciary. So they raised the name of Hlope to form part of the judiciary. What does this say, or what implication does it bring to the Government of National Unity? Because I thought they will never, side with the opposition parties. But maybe it's my lack of understanding. If you can, guys, assist me. Anyone who can come up with some kind of answers on this question that lingers on my head. Thanks, Langa from Maritzburg.
Thanks for that, Langa. Langa, here's my thoughts. We'll talk about the Judicial Services Commission issue just now. Not quite now, but later on. Maybe I think just after 5, in fact. But here's the thing. My understanding is that, Al Jamaa, in voting for Judge John Slope, in this case, as a member of the Judicial Services Commission, in fact, are consistent with the views of the ANC. They're not against them. In fact, the DA has opposed it. That I know. And I think the ANC supported it, and so did Al Jamaa. So there has been this grouping. The bigger issue is if the ANC has said yes and the DA has said no. That's interesting, because if they're part of the Government of National Unity, then how would you find them on opposite sides regarding this vote? How is that allowed in terms of what they've agreed upon? And maybe there's another example, perhaps one of the first, most fundamental ones now, of partners, chommies, collaborators in the Government of National Unity, in fact, not united and being allowed to not be united and saying it's okay. It's a fascinating constitutional story and maybe a fundamental one in terms of the running of Parliament. Kato in Midrand, go ahead. Hi.
Hi, good morning. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon indeed. Thank you. Good talking to you, Kato. Go ahead.
Listen, I love Gayton McKenzie's story. I think he's the underdog who really came up. But I think that the approach that he's taking is not the greatest. This is almost like Donald Trump. You know, you can't put everything on Twitter. I think there's a way he can deal with these issues. The super fans, he can do an investigation as to, do we really need them? How did they get appointed? How much did they get? Because now you look at Mama Joy, she has become now the subject of this whole tweet from Gayton McKenzie. People are victimizing her, ridiculing her that she must pay the money back. I think I'm very, very skeptical of GNU, because their political party, like they're going to use their ministry to promote their party and to campaign, and this is not what the GNU should be about.
Okay, I think you spot on, Kato. Good call, absolutely. Meaning, and this is the point, that it's possible Gayton McKenzie may be right. It's possible he may be wrong. It's possible he's half right and half wrong. What is a problem is that two things. One is that he tweets it before, which is great for media, okay? I get that. But he tweets it out, so we know about it already. There's no official statement, but maybe you could say a Twitter is a statement, a tweet, right? But the second part, he's like, I've done it. He's not saying I'm considering it. He's not saying we're going to do an investigation into it or review. He's like, it's done, finished. And I think that your point there for Kato there is right, that, you know, this one, maybe he may have lots of people supporting him. But if he then continues in the same vein on a whole lot of other serious issues, where just unilaterally deciding on that, then that is problematic. I mean, there are examples, you gave the Trump example. At which stage then do you say, no, but that's not on? Okay, because this is now only sport and it's only arts and it's only culture, and we certainly know what he wanted. He wanted Home Affairs. Can you imagine that sort of unilateral decision making at Home Affairs? Where does the president fit in to all of this? Fascinating one. Okay, more. We'll be connected by the spokesperson for for Eskom pretty shortly. In fact, here's another one on KZN's violence.
Ashraf, I don't know if I'm wrong, but like KZN is becoming very lackadaisical when it comes to killings and all this stuff, from political killings to inkabi, to taxi violence. Now it's an attempted, bombing. What more? Like, where is the province going to? Like, I'm just worried for that province.
Well, it's a fair point. There are lots of issues, and I think we're all worried about that province. In fact, we're worried about many provinces that make up South Africa. Let's get back to the superfan story.
Yeah, Ashraf, good afternoon. This time some room for them. I'm happy that Gayton McKenzie is bringing changes, and this thing of superfans. How do you qualify as to be a superfan? You have people that are attending stadiums every day, but the camera is not focusing on them. So they cannot be labeled as super fans. So there's no way that people will attend World Cups at the expense of our money as taxpayers. No, if they want to go to World Cup, they must pay from their own pocket like everyone else. I'm glad that Gayton McKenzie is taking that stand. It's bringing a lot of changes. I can see now that things are going to shake up. That department is going to be shaken up.
Here's a fundamental question to all of us. Can we mathematically confirm that a super fan, and I'm not knocking any super fan, I mean, I'd like to think I'd like to be a super fan. I'd love watching sport. Are we able to track a super fan's contribution to a country winning a World Cup, any sport in the world, to say, I won it because of the super fans? Stanley in Guyana. Hi, Stanley. Stanley, you there?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Go ahead, Stanley.
No, I want to talk about this thing of the super fan. I think Gayton McKenzie is going at the right direction, because here in Guyana, we've got kids who are very talented. They had a scholarship to go to study in Pretoria, to study music. There are 3 blind kids. We've been trying to get the department to help these kids. On Sunday, the kids were crying because they didn't have funds, and the others whom their parents have money, they left. But those 3 kids who are depending on their disability grant, they had to stay behind, because when we go out and ask, they don't have budget, but they've got budget for the super fans. It's not fair. It's not fair to other kids who they've got talent, but they cannot be funded. They cannot be funded to go there. It was very heartbreaking yesterday on Sunday to see the other kids whom their parents could afford the 3,000 each per kid leave, and those 3 kids who together they needed 9,000, the 3 of them, they couldn't get, and they were crying. And even now we're trying to get them funds. We've been trying to tell the department nothing is coming through, but the super fan goes to France and everywhere. It's heartbreaking.
Okay, got that. I think, you see, this is the point. I don't think there's a problem with having super fans being part of the brand. That's why maybe at some stage we need to talk to Brand SA as well about this, right? But I think what's interesting is, like, does the money come from the Department of Sport? Does it come from, say, Brand SA? And then how much value do they bring? In some cases, the cameras focus on them. And yes, I think we must concede, as someone who really understands brand and appreciates value of brand communication, that it does reflect a country. I think we must give it to that. On the other hand, we have to also look at just how many rands and cents we've got in our kitty. If we're doing that, but you find the hockey team, as I remember in the previous Olympic Games, they have to scout around for money because there's no funds for them to go to an Olympic Games when they've already qualified, then there's something fundamentally wrong with that. So how do you get the balance right? And the last thing is, if they're sponsored, they're sponsored. If they're sponsored by a company and this company sees value in them being there, then that's exactly what sponsors do all the time, isn't it? Right? Think about that. Maybe that last one, I'll take more thoughts on the superfan story. Certainly many people want to talk about it. Let's take one for now, then we'll come back to it later.
Yo, Saddam. I think he's not good for this position. No, man. No. And we are telling him that that message is from the verified Twitter handle. Minister Twitter handle, but then he keep on saying he want to hear from him, from the horse's mouth. I'm not sure if he's too old school or what, like, but no, man. I think they need to replace him. I don't know, maybe the stress of Kaiser Chiefs not winning things, maybe. I don't know. Ish. Siqangqa Shibaza here from Gwaqwataza.
Well, there you are. All right, thank you for that. I mean, interesting, again, another perspective. So just to confirm, I said that he's also a verified account. Just to double check, I think Gayton's account is not verified, by the way, as in the blue tick, just to be sure. Having said that, you don't need to be verified with a tick to confirm that it's you. There's no question that it's his account. There's absolutely no question about it. We've quoted him, we've used it, he's used it every single day. So you're right that the question is, does he need to be interviewed for us to know his opinion? If he's tweeted it out and it's him, that's his opinion. It's a press release. It's a modern day digital press release. The second part to that is now whether Saddam Marke himself should feel the need to respond or not to respond to him directly. Okay, that I can't decide on. It's for him to do that. We had him on air. He didn't want to comment about that directly, but he spoke about his thoughts about sponsorship and the value that he brings. Let's talk about the value, or rather not the value, what's happened to KZN 3 years after the unrest of July 2021. We chat to Ibrahim Patel from the Minara Chamber after this.
Nelson Mandela once said,
"It is in your hands to create a better world for all who live in it."
SAFM urges you to identify those in need around you and to do what you can to make a difference to them. Tata Mandela went further to say, what counts in life is not the mere fact that we have lived. It is what difference we have made to the lives of others that will determine the significance of the life we led. SAFM celebrates Mandela Month. You are listening to the National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
It's amazing, so much happens in a busy world that we live in, certainly in our country, that you tend to sort of almost forget about certain milestones. So one of them would be the 9th of July 2021. Because from the 9th of July to the 18th of July 2021, 3 years ago, our country had turned into chaos, particularly Durban, then spread to other parts of KZN, and then touched on aspects of parts of Johannesburg as well. And that, whatever it was that spread violence, whether it was violence, looting rather, and then counter-violence, and then racism, and all that put together in those hotspots that made up KZN in particular, was described by the South African Human Rights Commission as the bloodiest day in the country's democratic era. So 3 years later, what is the position regarding the economy and perhaps the state of business, and if we can, in terms of human rights and the relations between people linked to poverty and deprivation and concerns for each other 3 years later? Let's get the thoughts of Ibrahim Patel, who's the president of the Minara Chamber of Commerce, I think based in KZN. Ibrahim, appreciate your time, not to be mistaken for the former Minister of Trade and Industry, Ibrahim Patel, just so that we know. Much appreciate your time.
Thank you, Ashraf, and good afternoon to your listeners. Yes, that confusion has followed me for much of my life, and I'm glad that the minister has resigned. Oh, it's tired now.
Well, that will be tweeted. I'm glad the minister has resigned. Can you just imagine whether that would trend or not? All right, let's talk about more serious issues.
Just before we start, just a small correction. I'm the past president of the chamber, not the current president.
Oh, I see. My apology. I've got it down here as president. Okay. Let's then reflect on. So where are we 3 years later?
Well, Ashraf, let's just, you mentioned about the Human Rights Commission report, which called it the bloodiest day in democratic era. But just to point out the economic impact of that, as you know, that KZN was contributing 16% to the national GDP, with Gauteng at 33% and the Western Cape at about 14%. And post the July 2021 unrest, KZN's economic growth within that 2021-2022 period was down to 1.1%, which was far lower than the national average of 1.9%. And if we look at the unrest cost to the economy, KZN lost almost 70 billion rands in its economy. Of that, the loss of the sales and the stock of the businesses that were looted and damaged amounted to about 40 billion rand, and the machinery and property that was damaged or totally destroyed was another 30 billion rand. And it was estimated that 9,100 jobs were impacted and about 16,000 businesses were affected by that riot. And that's the quantum and the scope of where we came from in 2021. So when you point out that it was a violent period in our democratic area, it was also a very economically challenging point in our democratic
And I mean,
era.
staying on the economy side just for now, because that's why we're talking to you, right? I mean, do I take it in strictly economic and business terms, that sort of deficit can almost never be recovered, certainly not in the same generation?
Well, at the same time as we dwell on the issues that took place 3 years ago, in that period of time, KZN has progressed. KZN, we came through COVID, we came through the July unrest, we came through the 2022 floods, which all kind of the perfect storm that existed in KZN. And, as residents and citizens of KZN, we have this little term that we use, which is called quasi-resilience. The resilience of KZN. And I think that has come totally to the fore as people have once again started putting the future together and looking at the future and looking at how we can surmount the difficulties that we've had. So economically, KZN has started to recover. We've seen the more confidence in the economy, more confidence in the province. A little around the questions were around the elections, the period, but that confidence has come back. We've seen that the fear that dwelled amongst people during the election run-up as well has also dissipated. And there's a lot more confidence in the economy. So I feel since 2021, a lot more has happened in KZN. Government has given a great deal of focus to growing KZN once again because it's an important aspect of our economy. It's an important part of the generation of the manufacturing sector, of the financial services sector, even on the services sector. If we look at the large number of BPOs that are based in KZN. So, it tells us that there's a great deal that KZN contributes to this.
So you use that phrase quasi-resilience, as in...
Quasi-resilience.
Yeah, as in like quasi-Natal resilience, right? I mean, give us a manifestation of that quasi-resilience. I mean, because it's not something you just switch on like a light switch on and off. I mean, something has to happen for that resilience to be manifested, right?
People have realized that we cannot dwell on, it has impacted on the psyche of people. It has, obviously, that trauma dwells within us, but we cannot dwell on it itself. We have to move forward if we want to really heal and come through the period that we had. So, if you talk about the economy, the confidence, the return to the economy, some of the key projects that have come about post-2020, 2021 was there's the industrial park in Giba Gorge, it's Caterage, which is about a 1 billion rand investment that is taking place. There's a 1.3 billion rand residential and tourist investment. There's already comments on the south coast in the Renishaw area. There's a 1 billion rand new megacity that is coming about, 1 billion rand new megacity that is coming along on the western part of Durban, which is the area around Shongweni. So we're seeing this kind of investment that's now taking place, and that shows us that there's a great deal of confidence. These investments are obviously creating jobs. We have a foreign investment in the country as well, the 1 billion rand palm oil refinery by Wilmar from Singapore in Richards Bay, which tells us that there's a great deal of confidence is coming back into the economy and the jobs that have been created. Government has announced in 2024 in the KZN budget, the KZN government announced the formation of the KZN Logistics Hub, which will incorporate Richards Bay and the Port of Durban with a capital investment of 155 billion rand. And they're suggesting that it will contribute or create more than 500,000 jobs in the province over the period of the...
Okay, I mean, those numbers certainly dazzle, but it gets me thinking, how does one connect, for example, say the executive mayor of the city versus, say, the provincial head versus a person in a township store in terms of when we talk about resilience and fighting back? How are they all somehow interconnected? You've got about 30 seconds to answer that.
Well, I think that, KZN, the citizens of KZN have always worked well together. Whilst we've had the mayor and, of course, now the former mayor, and soon tomorrow we'll know who the new mayor is. But it all has, people are interconnected. So whilst the Human Rights Commission report pointed out to the high levels of poverty, the social disparity has been the key contributors to the violence is exacerbated. But we've seen those areas that were impacted, where it was across racial groups, have also started healing, and the connectivity between the two has become stronger as well. So there's a lot of focus on social cohesion in KZN. Past administrations of government have also focused on a great deal on social cohesion and building up that relationship between the various societies that exist in our province. So, I think that people understand that if we were to go back to the way of this deep unfeeling, it's not good for the province. And so people are rising above it. And, whether it's in the townships, whether it's in the cities, whether it's in the suburbs, people are starting to band together, and we've seen a great deal of assistance. So, just to point out that in the 2021, during during the unrest itself, we've seen communities come out to help other affected communities. So when the state was absent, it was ordinary citizens that were helping each other. And that speaks to the relationship that exists on the ground.
It's a good point. I think at the end of the day, it is all about the people. It's for the people, by the people, and all about the people as well, as it should be. Ibrahim Patel, past president of the Minaro Chamber of Commerce, much appreciate your input. And I certainly welcome further comment from you, the audience, you, the people, as we reflect the national pulse. Let's get the news headlines now with Utsile.
Thanks, Ashraf. Good afternoon. A level 8 weather warning has been put in place for Thursday in Cape Town. Pubulan Govender, an IFP delegate from KwaZulu-Natal, has been elected as deputy chairperson of the National Council of Provinces. Govender was elected unopposed. And the Umlalazi local municipality in Eshowe in northern KwaZulu-Natal says one person has died in a wildfire that started on Sunday night. Over 80 homes were damaged in the area. Details at 5 o'clock with Mudupi Makhalimele.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, Grayston Drive eastbound in Sandton has delays towards the M1 highway. New Road in Midrand has roadworks reported. One lane open on the ramp to the N1 southbound, so you are to expect delays. And Eskom Patleli Drive northbound in Pretoria has delays towards Mood Street. In KZN, the M13 in Hillcrest on Wednesday will be closed at Cassie Road from 9 a.m. until 3 p.m. for bridge repair works. Traffic will be diverted via ramps. The N2 southbound is slow moving towards Spaghetti Junction, and the N3 westbound in Camperdown has a crash reported just before Mlaws Road exit. In Cape Town, the N2 eastbound is slow moving towards the M7 highway interchange. Chapman's Peak Drive is closed due to rockfalls. Malibongwe Drive westbound has flooding reported towards the Bend section, and Govan Becky Road westbound has flooding reported between Nyanga and Hanover Park. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Khapele.
All right, I sort of raced for the mic. To me, what's the big stories now?
Well, we start off with rugby. Rassie Erasmus retained his match day 23 in naming the most experienced team in Springbok history for the series decider against Ireland in Durban on Saturday. Erasmus named an unchanged starting 15 with a total of 990 combined test caps amongst them. Furthermore, Damian Dialandi and Jesse Creel will become the most capped centre pairing in South African history on Saturday when they are combined in the midfield for the 30th time in Test. Erasmus also announced that a handful of players would be released from the 39-man squad to appear in the Carling Currie Cup matches this weekend, and the players will be released or will be confirmed tomorrow and will join the squad on later on this weekend. Then in cricket, India women won the toss and they chose to bowl first against Proteas women in the third and final T20 between both sides. The last time I checked, checked, South Africa was sitting on 65 for 2 after 12 overs. We'll definitely keep you up to date with that one. Then in tennis, Yannick Sinner currently battling it out with Daniil Medvedev in the first Wimbledon quarterfinal. The last time I checked, Sinner was still leading the first set and was trailing 4 games to 2 in the second set. Carlos Alcaraz is about to take on Tommy Paul, and Donna Vekic is through to the semis after a 5-7, 6-4 and 6-1 win over Lulu Son. Then in football, Marumo Gallant's president Abraham Silo has defended his decision to purchase the top flight status of Morocco Swallows to claw their way back to the DStv Premiership. At a press conference that was held this afternoon, just to answer a couple of questions on the recently concluded deal, Silo was prepared for every single eventuality, and he says that buying a franchise required several boxes to be ticked when asked why Gallants didn't gain promotion using the traditional method.
Very ugly question and easy to answer. The football has got rules. PSL has got rules. There is no way we're going to cross the bridge without following all those clauses and rules and regulations about them. One, you work hard to get promoted. Congratulations to my homeboys, Magezi FC, to be promoted automatically. And this is it's not the first time it happens.
Elsewhere, Kukune United have unveiled 2 more signings today, including former Kaizer Chiefs defender Njabulo Ngcobo. Ngcobo arrives after 3 seasons at Naturena, where he made 45 appearances and was at times used as a defensive midfielder. He previously played for Amazulu Richards Bay, but his breakthrough season came with Morocco Swallows in the 2020-21 season, after which he signed by Chiefs. In athletics, 2-time Olympic Renee Karma, who represented South Africa at the 2008 and 2012 Olympic Games, is quite confident that the women's marathon team will showcase exceptional talent. Gerda Steyn will make her 2nd Olympic appearance, and Yvette van Zyl will compete in her 4th Olympics. So the team is looking quite strong.
I think they are all great runners and they don't really need my advice. We are really sending a very strong team to the Olympic Games, and I'm so excited to watch them and to support them, and I'm also excited for them. Their hard work over the years has paid off. Like, it's the ultimate goal to go to the Olympic Games for any athlete. So it's a dream came true for all of them. Like, it's Yvette's 4th Olympic Games, Gerda's 2nd, and Charlie's making a debut there. So I think just have gratitude for how far you've come. It takes a lot of blood, sweat and tears, a lot of sacrifices to get there. And not everybody is so lucky to represent their country at the Olympic Games. So go out there, have fun and just appreciate and soak the moment.
Right, just quickly going back to the results between Proteas women versus India. The right score is 69 for 6 after 13 overs. It's actually now sitting on 70 for 6 with Tyron and Jafta at the crease. With that said, it's a wrap from my side for now. I'll have more in at the next hour for SAFM Sport. I am Dumin Khabele.
We haven't spoken. Anything you want to talk about? Anything you want to get off your chest regarding sport?
I think I've taken everything off my chest with regards to the super fans.
Yeah. She's pitching to be a super fan. You never know. By the way, we've got. I put out a vote line on my Twitter X account, and we'll get SFM Radio to share it as well. And the question I've asked is, so we're quoting Gayton McKenzie. He's saying, "I've stopped all trips for super fans. We have athletes and artists who are struggling to raise money to attend sporting events and exhibitions." So I'm asking you, say what? Good idea, bad idea. You can WhatsApp us now, just good idea, bad idea. But also do follow that vote line on my Twitter account or X account, as well as SFM Radio when we share it. I'd love to know what we finally come up with. Right, more sport in an hour.
Top Sport with Michael Abramson.
Good evening, Bro Michaels. It's the truck driver Wallace Underwana here in KZN, and I just want to say well done to the Springboks. And wow, the singing of the national anthem, guys. That was electrifying. And welcome back to Coach Steve Komphela. And Amakosi are back. Let's just hope all the new jerseys that you are going to be revealing and all the technical team, the new coach, is going to turn into winnings. Good luck and welcome back, Coach Steve.
Thanks, Freddie. As always, just keep your eye on the road, my friend, because you sound very, very excited there. Just keep watching and what you're doing. But thanks for the call, as always.
Top Sport on SAFM. SAFM has signed a code of conduct that is enforced by the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Under the code, we are committed to giving news that is accurate, comment that is fair, and programming that is not harmful, does not amount to hate speech, or contain violence or explicit sex. If you think we are not living up to that code, then you can inform the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Direct any complaints in writing to the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. PO Box 142365. Craig Hall 2024. Fax to 011-326-3198 or an email to bccsa@nabsa.co.za. For more information, please visit www.bccsa.co.za.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
We're going to talk to Eskom about load shedding, load reduction. Let's get the language right in a few minutes' time, and I'll take your calls on Superfan, on John Slopper, on KZN 3 years ago, on many of the other issues that impact us, on that Durban explosion as well, the Durban Mosque story. But let's get to the issues of the markets now with Makwe Masilela, Chief Investment Officer at Makwe Fund Managers. Makwe, good chatting as always. Let's get to local and global markets first up.
Afternoon to you, Ashraf, and to your listeners. Ashraf, market participants started the session waiting for the U.S. Fed chair testimony to Congress, and they were hoping for clues on the U.S. interest rate outlook. With the recent signs of soft growth and labor market, investors are closely watching if Powell gives any hint on the timing of rate cuts. And when he testified, he said holding rates too high for too long could jeopardize economic growth, but seemingly the guys, they still need more confidence. They're still looking for more good data before they can put that X when it comes to those interest rates. And ahead of the testimony, shares posted a patchy performance and pushing investors' focus away from France, where political deadlock in the Eurozone's second biggest economy cooled concerns over the potential fiscal impact of far left or far right policies. It makes it very difficult for any policies to be implemented, and one can easily liken that with our situation back home here with the formation of the GNU. We had the World Platinum Investment Council saying they're hopeful that the GNU cabinet and tariffs on Chinese vehicle imports could drive changes that further support the positive investment case for platinum, and the US dollar was being stayed near 4-week lows against a basket of currencies, but the rand was partially dented by that introduction of the load reduction by Eskom, and oil prices fell after Hurricane Beryl hit what they call a key U.S. oil producing hub, which is Texas, and it managed to cause less damage than markets had expected, and that itself eased concerns over supply disruptions. Brent crude is down 0.2% at $85 a barrel, and gold firmed as traders were eyeing that U.S. Fed chair testimony and also looking ahead when it comes to that inflation data to be released on Thursday. As I've remember, lower interest rates reduces the opportunity cost of holding the yellow metal, as gold itself doesn't yield anything, and also a weaker U.S. dollar makes it affordable for holders of other currencies to buy gold. We see gold itself is up 0.2% at $2,364, but platinum is flat at $1,000, and the DAX is down 1.1%, FTSE down 0.6%, CAC down 1.3%, the Dow is down 0.3%, but the S&P reaching record highs up 0.2%, the JSE is down 0.3%, with our financials down 0.4%, industrials are down 0.3%, but our resources are flat, and the rand as well is flat against the US dollar. It's trading at 18.11 and 23.1 to the pound and 19.60 to the euro.
Okay, that's it. We'll talk again tomorrow. Makwe, thanks for your time. As always, much appreciated, right? Let's get on to other issues. I will take, in fact, there's another vote line. Go to SFM Radio. There's a vote line on schooling. Should that July holiday, in fact, should schools' time shift to have a longer holiday in July so that people in the coldest months of the year, the coldest month of the year, in fact, do not need to attend school? Yes or no? Go to SFM Radio on Twitter or the X platform and you will find it. Okay, let's talk Eskom after this.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
Right, so there was a bit of a celebration a few days ago, about 100 days of no load shedding. So that's one thing. That continues. The second one is we have a issue called load reduction, and that exists. And there's also power failures or outages. Those also exist. So many of us are battling to understand the differences. And in fact, there's not a day that goes by without we getting someone calling in or WhatsApping us on this show, and we reflect the National Pulse saying, what is this no load shedding? We've got 10 hours, 15 hours of those lights. You tell me, what are we experiencing? So let's understand what exactly is the story around this with Daphne Mokwena, who's the spokesperson for Eskom. Daphne, good chatting to you. You're live with the National Pulse.
Good afternoon, and good afternoon to your listeners.
Thank you. So help us understand this. Okay, we do have over 100 days now with no load shedding, but you've heard my intro about the difference between load shedding, load reduction, and straight on power failures or power outages, right? We are getting outages, we are getting load reductions. So it may not be called load shedding, but people are affected in the same way as they would be affected when they have load shedding.
Yeah. So the fact of the matter is we are not load shedding. We have suspended load shedding. In actual fact, in the current financial year, we haven't load shed even a day, and we're sitting at 104 days without load shedding. However, people should also remember that the network that supplies them, especially the distribution network, because that's the network that supplies customers directly, does from time to time have, issues where we have our technicians coming out to come, and once the customers have reported, our technicians will come out and fix. Or if it's a major outage that we would have picked up on our systems, we would then send out technicians out to go and fix. And we have a sort of an agreement with NERSA in terms of our turnaround time in terms of those outages. So they are inherent within our power system, so they will happen from time to time. However, in other areas, what we're seeing is that due to illegal connections, and obviously customers bypassing their meters and consuming electricity indiscriminately because I'm not paying for that service that I'm getting, we then see our infrastructure overloading and the breaker either tripping or the transformers failing, and hence we need to come out and deal with the issue.
So let me interject you on this one here. I mean, I hear you, right? Just in terms of, and maybe just short, not a long answer, just a short one. In terms of definitions, what's the definition between load shedding, load reduction, and power outage? Just very quick answers on that one.
Yeah. So load reduction is a long-established process that we have been implementing as Eskom, and we normally implement it in specific areas where the network in that localized area would be overloading for different reasons, and then we would implement load reduction so that we save our infrastructure, mainly the infrastructure that gets actually that is exposed to this overloading. It's the transformer. So for us to protect the transformer integrity and the risk of it failing or exploding, we then implement load shedding, meaning we will switch off supply to the customers when that network starts to overload, because it's overloading because the customers are basically consuming electricity that is more than what that network is designed for.
Okay.
So it will overload. So if we don't intervene by implementing load reduction, basically what will happen is that the breaker may trip, the major breaker, or you may start seeing transformers exploding because they cannot.
Okay. So I understand that load shedding would be that there's this planned reduction with tables and all
planned
that.
Reduction due to constraint of the national grid versus the national demand.
Okay, here's the thing. To the average consumer, right,
Yes.
of electricity, they really don't care about the definitions. They just want lights.
Yes.
And when there's no lights or there's no power, they're
Yes.
suggesting that in fact load reduction is a euphemism, when in reality it is load shedding. We can debate the definitions all day long. Basically, they're saying, do we have lights or don't we have lights? And just far too many people are saying they don't have lights, even when we say there's no load shedding. How do you respond to that?
So let me give you this scenario, and it is a fact, by the way. So we've got, as Eskom, we've got about 395,000 transformers, right, as the base that is out there that is installed. And what we're looking at, we are looking at about 2,111 transformers that are overloading, which makes it a percentage of that 395. So even though we're having load reduction that we're talking about, that we are implementing, so we are implementing on a few number of customers. For an example, your 100 kVA transformer, it's supposed to be supplying, say, close to 50 or 60 customers, depending on the type of customer. So if you multiply that, obviously, by 2,100, I think we get to about 150,000 customers being affected by this load reduction. While load shedding, we're talking about all our customers as Eskom 7 million, including the municipal customers.
I hear you. Okay, but again, just to conclude then, for many listeners, they get all confused with the mumbo jumbo of the numbers and what they really mean.
Yes.
All they're saying, and this is it, is like, Daphne Mokoena from Eskom, show me the light 24/7, and we're not able to do so. Appreciate your time, Daphne. Thanks for joining us. Much appreciated.
So
there we are.
much.
Daphne Mokoena is the spokesperson for Eskom. What do you make? I mean, you'd have no load shedding. Maybe you have load reduction, maybe not at all. But are you getting consistent light or energy supply to your home, to your business every day in the last 100 days? Yes or no? Let me know about that too. You can WhatsApp 0614 104 107.
In the heart of darkness, a beacon of light emerges. A brand new season is coming your way with your 2024 Miss South Africa Top 30. Hosted by our reigning queen, Miss South Africa, we embark on a transformative journey. Join us for the spectacular new season of Crown Chasers.
Crown Chasers is back.
Starts 29 June at 8:30 p.m. only on S3 Open Up.
I hope you're going to be joining Bridget Masinga as well, because she hosts the Full Circle and I host the National Pulse, and certainly on Thursday we'll be broadcasting from Cape Town for the Africa Unlocking Africa's Growth event. It's the inaugural Standard Bank Business and Commercial Banking Conference. In fact, it starts from tomorrow, so Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, all in Cape Town, and I think it's really important. Feel free to connect with us, because that's really what it is. Understanding how to unlock Africa's growth. Get those insights on these shows.
X at SAFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda.
Right, we'll take further calls in a few minutes' time, but do comment on the Eskom story. We'll be talking about the Judicial Services Commission. John Slope is one of them now, But what do you think? Yes, no, good, bad? You tell me. We're going to get comment on that just now. Let's get to the Eastern Cape now. So we've discussed KZN. Businesses in the Eastern Cape, well, they say the provincial government needs to devise an intentional strategy to deal with the negative economic growth that placed the province into recession. So officially so, you know that, right? According to the Eastern Cape Socio-Economic Consultative Council, the province has recorded a 0.3 decline in GDP for the first quarter of 2024, with the construction industry in particular recording a major decline of 2.9%. That's massive. Local businesses, their chambers as well in the province, say this is due to the delayed unlocking of constructors' building plans, as well as the red tape that limits the construction industry from thriving. So many questions, so much bureaucracy, so much need to grow, because as we know, it is the growth of an economy that ensures that the growth of people and the lives of people can change. That's not really happening. Let's get more on that story with the SABC News reporter Abongile Janchis, who filed this report.
A rand value decline of 1.9 billion rand in GDP for the province in the first quarter of 2024. Apart from construction, manufacturing, mining, transport and government service industries all declined. Just last month, Mercedes-Benz announced its intention to retrench 700 of its employees in its East London plant. Currently, the province's unemployment rate stands at 42%. The CEO of Nelson Mandela Bay Business Chamber, Dennis van Heestium, says the stagnant economic growth is affecting businesses, particularly SMMEs.
It's actually no surprise that we are in the position that we are in, given that we're very much an economy that's anchored around manufacturing. And for manufacturing to succeed, we need an enabling environment in place. That means reliable power. It means logistics that are efficient, and also the basics in terms of the infrastructure need to be maintained.
Meanwhile, the CEO of the Bodakai Business Chamber, Lizelle Maurice, says corruption has contributed to the recession.
And the last thing that we can do is to ensure that corruption is eradicated, because that is if you can just think, one of our sectors, particularly the tourism sector, has been really affected by corruption, where tourism establishments have had to pay government officials to actually stay with them. And this is not right, that an entrepreneur has to pay back or to give kickbacks for business to come to them.
The director of the Makanda-based Public Service Accountability Monitor, Jay Cruz, has called on the provincial government to explore other avenues to stimulate economic growth.
The PSM would also encourage the provincial government and municipalities to take action to enhance tourism in the province, which can readily contribute towards GDP growth. Improving the maintenance of district and minor roads will help communities in diverse ways and improve tourists' access to more remote attractions and create great opportunities for employment at hotels and lodges.
CEO of the Eastern Cape Socio-Economic Consultative Council, Luvuyo Mosana, says it is in the process of outlining policies for the provincial government to resuscitate the flagging economy.
To deal with those, certainly you must improve on your own incentives, and as well as including improving on your local, value chains, and ensure that you beneficiate in most of the sectors locally. And these are the things that we need to be giving attention to, and ensure that the Eastern Cape economy is not largely importing, it is able to produce from within. Akwazi into yoba athi kwabo banoxanduva nansi into ekufanele bayenziwe, and kwaye nansi indlela yokuba abantu bapanjwe babe nokuthatha irresponsibility.
The council says the decline in GDP will further constrain job creation if not reversed. I'm Abongile Yankees in East London.
There we are. Important issue around the goings-on in the Eastern Cape, certainly with regard to recession. That's not good news at all. Thanks for that, Bongile Janchis. Right. Okay, let's get to some of the callers now. In Kululeko in Jozini, right? Good chatting to you. Let's talk Superfan.
Yes, I think it's about time. Gayton has made a point. This Superfan issue has been bothering South Africans most of the time. I always watch TV, and I see always Mama Joy and the rest. We are both Saddam and Machaga. They are invited in these big games, national sporting games, even to the World Cup. Everywhere you see, they are flying with the Bafanas or Springboks. But it's unfair, because we all go to the stadiums. And I think they must select people based on the tickets that they buy. Because now, even the PSL games, they don't have a season ticket. Sometimes, if they can have that system of selecting teams, fans according to the season ticket, that you attend so much games per season, and then you qualify to go with the national team when they travel overseas. And then I think Gayton also must challenge Danny Jordan. I think he must also write on Twitter that Danny Jordan must resign at that SAFA office, and then we must get the new blood. Because now I think Gayton is trying to be a populist here. He must also write that Danny Jordan must fall. And then I'll be happy.
Well, maybe he would be a populist if he's doing what you're suggesting about Danny Jordan. Thanks for that call. Well, I'll tell you what, here's a quick thought on that one there. Let's get some balance here. I think you get fans who are paid to travel overseas to support South Africa. You get other fans who are not paid, but their entire trip is sponsored. So, there's still tremendous value for that. And then you get the other fans who have to pay their way wherever they are. I think in the first instance, that's why they're called super fans. Now, as per your point, Nkululeko, about why not us, right? I think here's the difference in their defense. And I'm looking at people like Mama Joy and Saddam, and could be others too, right? It is precisely the value they bring by being in the stadium, by standing out, by setting themselves apart, that makes them what they are, that then allows a sponsor, whether it's the Ministry of Sport, whether it's another sponsor, whether it's a brand, to want to be associated with them. So they will never do it just because they want to rotate. But if you feel that you think you can stand, that you want that level of exposure, then you have to do something to be just that. Now, Saddam's done that, Mama Joy's done that, I have not done that, and neither have you. That's why we're talking about them and their role as superfans and not me and you. I hope that you understand that. Having said that, the broader issue is this, and I do have a sense about it. In fact, what I'll do is I'll give my thoughts on the broader issue just after the news. Let's get the news now with Madupi.
Thank you very much, Ashraf. The top stories this hour: a level 8 weather warning for Cape Town and one person killed in KZN wildfires. A very good afternoon. A level 8 weather warning has been put in place for Thursday in Cape Town. The city's Disaster Risk Management Centre says numerous rivers and canals are at capacity, including the Easter River at Makassar near Strand. It says there are flooded roads across the metropole, and the roads department is working to address any blockages of the stormwater system. Spokesperson Sonika Latachan says the level 6 warning for disruptive rain remains in place for today.
The weather warning for level 6 disruptive rain is still in place for today. The level 4 warning for damaging winds has now been extended to Thursday. There's also a warning for level 8 disruptive rain in place for Thursday, as well as a level 6 warning for damaging waves. This will likely exacerbate the impacts of the severe weather to date.
Ashraf Garda, an IFP delegate from KZN, has been elected as the deputy chairperson of the NCOP. He was elected unopposed. Garda was nominated by the Northern Cape delegate Kenny Muyemamang and seconded by KZN delegate Mxoli Kawunda. NCOP chair Refilo Mtsweni declared Garda duly elected after he accepted the nomination.
Honorable members, I have satisfied myself that indeed the motion, the form does comply with the requirements. And there being no further nomination, and the nominee having accepted the nomination, I declare Honorable Garda to be duly elected as the Deputy Chairperson of the National Council of Provinces.
The DA earlier objected to the nomination of the impeached Judge John Hlophe as a member of the Judicial Service Commission. The decision was taken by the National Assembly at its plenary sitting earlier today. Hlophe was nominated to serve on the JSC by his MK party. The DA says to protect and defend the integrity of the judiciary, it cannot elevate Hlophe to such a platform while he was impeached by the National Assembly for gross misconduct. Here's the DA's George Mikalakis.
We are strongly of the view that it is neither reasonable nor rational to elect Dr. Hlophe as a representative of the National Assembly on the Judicial Services Commission. The second reason why Parliament should not elect Dr. Hlophe is to be found on the grounds I've just mentioned, if you listened, Honourable Member. The second reason why Parliament should not elect Dr. Hlophe is to be found in the constitutional obligation which we as members of the National Assembly enjoy to assist and protect the judiciary in order to ensure its independence, its impartiality, its dignity and its effectiveness.
The Umlalazi municipality in Eshowe in northern KZN says that one person has died in a wildfire that started on Sunday night. Over 80 homes were damaged in the area. Other affected municipalities include Mtonjaneni and Nkandla. Some farms in the area have also been destroyed. Umlalazi Mayor Queen Xulu is appealing for help from the provincial government.
Umlalazi is the hardest hit under the King Kejoi district. Over 15 wards have been affected. Ward 1 is the worst affected. Many homes here have been burned. People have also lost their livestock and vehicles they use for businesses. Those who have sugarcane and forest plantations have been severely affected. Help is really needed. We are really affected.
And the UN Human Rights Office says it is following up reports of a mass grave in the desert along the Libya-Tunisia border. The High Commissioner Volker Turk says his team had been informed of some disturbing developments in Libya. More from the BBC's Lipika Pelham.
Mr. Turk has urged the two countries to investigate swiftly the alleged crimes in line with their responsibilities, adding the relatives of the victims had every right to know the truth. In March, the UN had expressed profound shock after a mass grave was found in Libya with the bodies of at least 65 migrants. The UN said the inadequate action of the authorities was evident in the growing number of deaths and the disturbing conditions migrants find themselves in.
The top story at 5 o'clock, a level 8 weather warning has been put in place for Thursday in Cape Town. For SAFM News, Kemudupi Makhalemele.
In your sports this hour, Vekic through to Wimbledon semi-finals. Erasmus names unchanged box side, and Athletics South Africa and SASCOC work together to prepare the relay team for the Olympics. More details at 5:30.
SAFM. Guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the M1 southbound in central Johannesburg is slow moving towards Crown Interchange. In Midrand, the N1 southbound is slow moving towards Buccleuch Interchange, and Summit Road westbound has delays at Blue Hills. In KZN, the N2 northbound has a stationary vehicle reported just before the M7 highway. The N2 southbound is queuing towards Spaghetti Junction, and the N3 inbound, an earlier crash recovery just before Spaghetti Junction has been cleared. In the Eastern Cape, the N2 southbound has sea debris on the roadway between John Talent Road and the M4 Settlers Way split. The R61 has a road collapse incident reported between Mthatha and Port St. John's, with stop-go controls at 2 locations and trucks being prohibited. In Cape Town, rain across the greater Cape Town region with widespread flooding and surface water hazards, so please slow down and proceed with caution. The N2 eastbound is slow moving towards Bunga Avenue, the M5 southbound is slow moving towards Racecourse Road, and the N1 eastbound is slow moving towards Okavango Road exit. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
Right, part of the big issues that moves the National Pulse in the last hour is the Judges Matter organization. They have a position. They're rather disappointed with some of the key appointments regarding the Judicial Services Commission. Read John Schlope, as well as Faith Mutambe, in terms of her position, right? So we'll talk about that in a few minutes' time. There's also a conversation we're going to have around using technology for your SARS tax filing season that you need to do, and there's more. I'll certainly take a range of your calls on many of the issues that absolutely gets to you, including 3 years KZN Durban, those riots and how that impacted that region. The issue of the superfan, well, that's top of the agenda, understandably so. You may have heard it earlier on, Gayton McKenzie saying no, he's going to stop all of that immediately, like it's happening already. So what's your opinion on that? Any thoughts on the changes in Rwanda regarding government changes in the UK means those refugees that were planned to be sent to Rwanda in exile, well, it's not going to happen according to the new leadership of the UK. And that bomb blast, or rather the explosion found, not bomb blast because it hasn't been exploded, found in a mosque in Durban North. What do you make of all of that? There's been talks of Islamophobia, some saying they planted it, they wanted their own attention. There's so many different things have come out of it. The reality, an explosion was found at a house of worship any house of worship. What do you make of that? We chatted early on to Saddam Maki about his thoughts on the Gayton McKenzie comments, the Minister of Sport. He didn't comment directly about Gayton's comments. He didn't want to, but he said this regarding sponsorship.
If they tell me without sending a message, whatever, they tell me as we started or maybe we agree, they can say, no, that was not a gentleman agreement. It was right and black and white. We are no longer going to use you because ABC. So now, if you tell me about something writing or maybe concern from the statement or WhatsApp or social media, I want. But if my sponsors come to me and say, we are no longer going to sponsor you, they will tell me why there is.
Yeah, but if they did that, how would you feel about it?
Depends what the reason was.
Okay. Here's the last thing. Do you think it is right to have super fans around the world, or do we not need them? And I'm talking about you.
Them.
You as a super fan, is it right that we use you to support our national team, or we don't need you?
We need them to support the national team. The national team, the players, they need us, we need them. This is our duty as the club players to support them. So if you can get a sponsor, they can get whatever. To say, President of Sanasho, please bring 20 supporters or 5 or 10, whatever. We got offers to take the supporters, whatever, national team. I will open my hands and say, yes, at least take them to support our national team.
Okay, that's Saddam Maki. What do you make of that position? I mean, of course, he didn't answer directly to Gayton McKenzie. He didn't want to do that regarding what the minister. I'm going to call him Minister McKenzie now. Strange sounding things. It's new days, but he's certainly making some big decisions very, very early on. So I did say I'll give you my thoughts on this issue. Let me just try and understand it, right? I think, number one, the principle of having South Africans as your ambassadors at sporting events around the world, I think is a good principle. And especially certain supporters that are very, very flamboyant. Read Saddam Maki, read Mama Joy. Do not read Ashraf Garda, because I certainly can't compete in the flamboyant stakes. That's the reality. That's why they're in demand. That's why I'm not in demand. That's why you're not in demand. That principle, I think, is fine, number one. Number two, it also assists South Africa's brand because lots of cameras do focus on them. Think about Roger Miller's. I know he's a player, but when he did his dance, when he scored a goal at the corner flag, he became a symbol for something far greater than just scoring a goal. So there is an inherent brand value doing just that. Okay. Having said that, to think that helps a team win, one or two players, one or two supporters very flamboyantly dressed up, helps a team win. I don't know. I can't imagine that. I can't think of the history of all major sports events, cricket, rugby, soccer, Olympic Games, whatever it is, that actually they won because not supporters, that supporter helped me win because the way he or she sang or danced. I don't think that can be the case. So if you're going to get them over, understand there's a value. Now, the question is how much value. If you're paying them a certain amount or you're taking them on certain flights, I think that's okay. If you're paying them an exorbitant amount of money that you don't have, then you have to revisit that conversation. If, on the other hand, and this has come up before, if we understand that for many South Africans, certainly those living below the poverty line, and South Africa has been historically divided, there are many people, predominantly white South Africans and middle-class South Africans, also black middle-class South Africans, who can afford to travel, and white South Africans and others who are from townships may never ever do that. So maybe the issue here is the core, to say, if you're going to get these super fans to go on a trade exchange deal, I think that's fine, and get a sponsor involved. But if you want 100 people or 200 people to really show the team abroad, or let's say Morocco, because Saddam made the point about Morocco, right, to show how much South African support you have, then what you do then, don't give them VIP treatment, but take 200 township kids or families, and you can do them on rotation, absolutely on rotation, and get them to watch our games. Now that part, those are the super fans I would absolutely support. Hopefully that makes sense to you. Well, that's certainly my point. Well, you can certainly tell me yours.
Ashraf Garda on SAFM.
Right, we had the conversation early on with Yusuf Desai. He is a trustee of the mosque in Durban, the Durban North Mosque, right, regarding the explosive found there. So we'll be connecting around the Judicial Services Commission issue shortly. But we thought, let's play this clip because this is what he said.
At this point in time, we're not going to disclose anything. We have some camera footage. We don't want to sort of disturb the ongoing investigation by the police. But this is what I can tell you is it's definitely an Islamophobic attack. Make no mistake about it. People are taking it a bit lightly, saying, no, it could be something very light, but I don't think so. I mean, this is the second Islamophobic attack in Durban for the last 2-3 months. Remember the one took place in Glenwood, where the guy stabbed the mother and the son, and that's an ongoing case at the moment. But it could be anything. It could be a lone wolf. It could be a syndicate trying to do something, trying to create some sort of a rift, animosity between the mosque and the community at large, because we have an excellent relationship. During the looting some time ago, the mosque was used as a center and as a base for security. Muslims and non-Muslims use the place for 2 weeks. Whenever there's a water shortage, water tankers out of the mosque, and immediately the community knows, hey, the mosque will have water. There's a borehole there. If there's any food needed, the mosque distributes food from there. If there's any marriage counseling to be done, it's done from the mosque. So the mosque has sort of gained some trust with the community.
Okay, let's get some further thoughts on that issue. Let me just pick it up here. There's some comments about Eskom too, but let's get to the mosque issue and what really happened. Lots of theories.
Ashraf, I think we should not be fooled by this, the bomb scare in KZN. We should not put a blind eye on it. Let's take it from where our country is now, with this GNU, and then all the other parties that are against the GNU. And then if you want to really topple a country, or you want to start something serious in a country, you start with ethnic violence. And I'm telling you, then you've done. So if South Africa really wants or has intelligence, they should not stay mum on this one. They should look at this one on a serious eye. Thank you.
Okay, so that's an interesting one. I'm not talking about Islamophobia, effectively saying this is an attempt to destabilize South African society. And again, I'm saying there's a lot of speculation. Okay, so we move to the speculation phase because nobody's actually got facts and figures accepting explosives were found. That's what we really know. That's it.
Hi, Ashraf. Lee from Durban here. Just a point of clarity. It sounds like the explosives found at the mosque were totally arbitrary in the sense of the place. According to a news report, the security guys spotted guys with the explosives, and they just threw the explosives into a property which happens to be a mosque. Not that the mosque was targeted. Please clarify. Thanks. Cheers, Lee.
Thanks for that, Lee. So, Lee, that's an interesting point. And I think that could be one of the factors. That's why I'm saying to you that there's a lot of conclusions that everybody's drawing, right? Including the mosque committee. It's definitely an Islamophobia. We don't know that for sure. This could be another issue. You're right. They could be on their way to, someone said, an ATM perhaps, and then just left it there. So, at the moment, it's all of the above. The bottom line to all of the above, whichever one it is, all of them are a problem. That's what it is. Let's get further comments. Colin in Cape Town, hi.
Hey, Ashraf, hi.
I'm very good, man.
I actually want to talk about that also. They were on their way somewhere else. Because, number one, you don't throw explosives because it may even go off. And to me, it's amateurs because when I saw the security car, why dump it? Why throw it away? They panicked. And another thing, to the security guys, don't search you. They don't search your cars. They're not the police. They're only security guards that ride around your area. So those guys, to me, were on their way somewhere else. Because your news said that a security guard, I thought, or the people thought, it was a security guard standing at the mosque, but it was a security guard rode past that saw them and they panicked. Anyway, Ashraf, that super Euro sportsman
Yeah,
or
very
something
quickly.
like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. You must remember one thing, the Barmy Army, they travel the world. They all pay their own ticket. Nobody gets anything for free today. Thanks very much,
Okay,
Ashraf.
thank you for that, Colin. Again, Colin's got his own theories, like they were on their way somewhere else as far as the sport. The Barmy Army is one of the great sporting institutions, I'll give you that. But that's the point. That's part of a sporting club. This is completely different, okay? And as has been made before, and I think this is the last thing on Gayton McKenzie's comments, is you also have to factor in the fact that many South African sporting codes, there's an underinvestment in those codes at grassroots level. There's also an underinvestment even at the elite level. When they get qualified for the Olympic Games, they can't afford to go because there's no money. Now, that certainly can't happen, isn't it? I'll get more calls on that issue as well. But let's talk about the Judicial Services Commission after this.
Yeah, we can do this. It's been a long time coming. This deserves to grow. It's a great business. If they don't like it, someone else will. And fund me so I can expand. Maybe I can offer them shares. I need to retain equity for staff. It's going to be good for recruitment. Yeah.
Possible begins with that one great idea. When Telkom enables entrepreneurs to make their ingenuity a reality, we grow local economies. Telkom. Possible begins here.
The world's best cooking show is coming to S3. MasterChef South Africa Season 5. You'll meet 20 talented home cooks from around Mzansi, Noma Uphumapi, and no matter your favorite dish. See if the chefs can handle the heat in the kitchen in a race to be crowned MasterChef South Africa. Starts Saturday 13 July at 7:30 p.m. on S3 Channel 193. MasterChef South Africa, proudly sponsored by Pick n Pay.
The inaugural Standard Bank Business and Commercial Banking Conference will take place from 10 to 12 July 2024 in Cape Town under the theme Africa Unlocked, Unlocking Africa's Growth. Tune in to the Full Circle with Bridget Masinga and the National Pulse with Ashraf Garda to get insights from the conference. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
Search Standard Bank Business and Commercial Banking. Standard Bank is an authorized FSP and registered credit provider.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
And just before we move on, we knew this is going to happen. You know, the DA, Deputy Speaker in the Gauteng legislature, they threatened that she would step down after they failed to reach an agreement with the ANC. Well, that's now happened. So, Refilwe Nteke resigning with immediate effect. That really, bottom line, part of the Gauteng provincial legislature is where the former speaker or deputy speaker will be, but certainly not in that position that was planned, effectively reflecting a fallout between the ANC and the DA in particular in the Gauteng province. Right, let's get to the issues around the JSC, the Judicial Services Commission. You may be aware that the Judicial Services Commission, the members designate have been now named. We know about that, as well as the Magistrates Commission. But the Judges Matter organization, they've come out and they are disappointed with particular appointments. We'll find out who and why. Mekazele Benjamin with me, researcher at Judges Matter, which is a watchdog over the judiciary. Appreciate your time once again. You're live on the National Pulse.
Thank you very much, Ashraf, and good afternoon to the listeners, rather.
Thank you so much. Right. Okay, so those names are out, the JSC and the magistrates, and you have a position on it. You're not happy with certain names. Who are they? Why?
We are not happy with Ms. Faith Mutambi for the Magistrates Commission and Dr. John Hlophe for the Judicial Service Commission. We believe that both individuals are not credible to be members of the Judicial Service Commission and the Magistrates Commission. If you remember, the Judicial Service Commission, both commissions rather, are responsible for appointing judges and magistrates to our courts. So their primary responsibility is to check whether lawyers who want to be judicial officers are qualified, they have the experience, and they have the integrity for them to do the job of being judicial officers. So if that is the requirement, then it is not possible for them who have also been found not to be credible or ethical to do that job. So for us, it was very clear and quite simple that Parliament as a body should considered other members in deciding who will represent them at these commissions. So we're quite disappointed that Parliament decided actually not to choose from amongst the best to represent them at the JSC and the Magistrates Commission.
What then would be your understanding in terms of why Parliament at that National Assembly chose who they chose?
Well, it was hard to distill it to one reason, because I think there was a debate that happened this morning. Certain political parties said we are barking up the wrong tree. Other political parties said yes. It is quite clear that if Parliament is going to play its function as the body that is responsible for this democracy, then it is required for it to choose a different kind of person who is more ethical, who has the integrity to serve on these commissions. And what we saw then was a vote, and the outcome of the vote was that these two individuals still continue to be nominated for the JC and the Magistrates Commission.
Now, I understand the DA particularly were very disappointed, so they have a similar view to yours. The EFF spoke out particularly in support of John Slope, and I think the point made was very interesting, suggesting that once a person is an MP and been cleared to be an MP, never mind what happened before that, then why can't they serve on any of the organizations or committees or parliamentary subcommittees, in this case the JSC, based on that?
Well, that argument really doesn't follow when you look at the different committees in Parliament. Let's maybe step aside from the JSC and the Magistrates Commission. For you to be a member of the Joint Standing Committee on Intelligence for Parliament, you need security vetting. So if you fail security vetting, you can't be a member of that Intelligence Committee. You can't be a member of the Defense Committee, and you certainly wouldn't be a member of the Police Committee in Parliament. So there are specific requirements in those committees that disqualify certain members. It doesn't follow that simply because you were elected, then suddenly you can serve in every single committee. It doesn't work. Even for one of the things that they were voting for today was for trustees for the parliamentary medical scheme. Now, those people who were elected are people who also were scrutinized for them to be put forward. So it doesn't really follow that if you are elected, then you can go anywhere.
Okay, so you would have no issue, for example, with any of the two names you've mentioned being part of other committees that are not specifically linked to issues that cast aspersions on their previous conduct in that field, right?
Look, there was a democratic process, right? 2 million South Africans voted for the MK Party, and the MK Party has selected Dr. Slope to be part of their caucus. So we would have absolutely no problem, because that is the will of the voters of the MK Party. But we are concerned that Parliament as a body for the JSC and the Magistrates Commission, they decided that these individuals are suitable, particularly when you consider the specific functions of these two committees. Their functions is to scrutinize would-be judges or would-be magistrates. So there is a specific function that they play. And so we thought Parliament would choose people who are fit for that purpose.
But here's a question. If I reflect on it and I looked at who opposed and who didn't, right, and who got nominated and from where, that isn't the very basis of these names in terms of first nominated, then accepted, very much on party political lines, and therefore a reflection of their views?
Well, unfortunately, it did boil down to party political lines, but the Constitution, and there are several cases now from the Constitutional Court, which have said that certain decisions that are taken by a Parliament is acting as a body. It's not just a cluster of political parties. It is a body. So, for example, as we speak, the ATM has taken the decision by Parliament not to proceed with the Phala inquiry to Parliament, to the Constitutional Court. And the main argument that they make there is that Parliament is a body. They don't say Parliament as the ANC or the EFF. They say Parliament as a body failed to hold the President accountable. So similarly, when you look at the delegations to the JSC and the Magistrates Commission, it is Parliament as a body that is supposed to look at the ethics and scrutinize the ethics of the individuals and say, yes, these are the kinds of people who should represent us at these commissions, or no, these people are not suitable. Let's choose other people.
All right. What is What is your recourse, or what is anybody's recourse now?
Look, the main thing it was that Parliament, as the duly elected public representatives, they should have acted properly, and we shouldn't actually resort to other bodies like the courts to fix a problem that Parliament itself should be fixed. But certainly the Constitution does entitle anyone, not just Judges Matter or any other NGO, it does entitle anyone to hold Parliament accountable for their failure to exercise the proper requirements of the Constitution like they did today. So we are considering those options, but at the same time, we take heart that a lot of the members who have been elected to be part of the JSC and the Magistrates Commission, a lot of them are credible. So we will also keep that in mind to say, look, it is one or two individuals, but overall, of the delegation of 10 members to go to the JSC, the vast majority of them are credible people. So at least we have some hope.
All right. Just lastly, I understand, help me if I'm right here, my understanding is that in terms of the voting, of course, I'm not talking about John Slope in particular, effectively nominated by the MK party, but supported by the ANC. Have I got that right?
No, the ANC didn't. What the ANC said was that the principle that they've used in the past is that if a political party nominates someone to serve on a particular forum, then Parliament as a body doesn't interfere with that political party's choice. So if, let's say, Al-Jamaa had a seat to serve on the Magistrates Commission, the ANC and the principle that has been established is that they wouldn't interfere with Al-Jamaa's choice. Whoever Al-Jamaa decided to put forward, they would not object. So that is the principle that the ANC highlighted, and for that reason, they supported Dr. Slope's nomination.
Okay, it's complex issues. Not supporting, not rejecting, but by by just sort of staying the middle ground, a sense of acquiescence around that issue. Thank you for your time. Lots, I'm sure, more to come from that conversation, more discussion here on the issues that moves the national pulse. Imbekezeli Benjamin, researcher at Judges Matter. Will they take that issue further? I think you bet they will. Let's get the news headlines now with Madupi.
In the headlines this hour, a level 8 weather warning has been put in place for Thursday in Cape Town. Emergency Services continues to caution residents on the safe use of heating devices while keeping themselves warm during the cold front that has hit most parts of the country. And U.S. aviation regulators have ordered urgent inspections of more than 2,500 Boeing 737s amid concerns that passenger oxygen masks could fail in emergencies. I'll be back with a full news update at 6.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N1 southbound in Randburg has a stationary vehicle reported after Malibongwe Drive exit. The N1 southbound in Midrand has a crash before Buccleuch interchange. Roger Dyson Road westbound in Pretoria has a crash after the R101 and power outage reported affecting traffic lights not working at multiple junctions in Garsfontein, Linwood and surrounding areas, so you're asked to expect delays there. In KZN, the N2 northbound has a stationary vehicle just before the M7 highway. The N2 southbound is slow moving towards Spaghetti Junction. The R102 southbound is slow moving near Old North Coast Road, and Chris Hani Road westbound is queuing at the N2 highway. In the Eastern Cape, the R58 Barclay Pass is closed due to snowfall. In Cape Town, Baden-Powell Drive in Khayelitsha has protesting reported at Jafta K Masimola Road Junction, so you're asked to expect delays and diversions. The N2 both ways has a truck crash reported between Potrefier and the R43 junction. That's causing traffic to queue in both directions. And the R319 is closed between Bredasdorp and Struisbaai due to flooding. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Khapele.
I have my eye on the green grass of Wimbledon. It doesn't rhyme. It certainly sounds good. Go ahead to me.
Alrighty, let's start things off with tennis this hour. Donna Vekic is through to the semi-finals of Wimbledon after beating New Zealand qualifier Lulu Sun. The Croatian came back from a set down under the roof of court 1 to win 5-7, 6-4 and 6-1 to reach the last four of a Grand Slam for the first time. She will meet Italian 7th seed Yasmin Paolini or US 19th seed Eva Navarro for a place in Saturday's final. In rugby, Rassie Erasmus retained his match day 23, naming the most experienced team in Springbok history for the series decider against Ireland in Durban on Saturday. Erasmus named an unchanged starting 15 with a total of 990 combined test caps among them. Furthermore, Damian Dialandi and Jesse Creel will become the most capped centre pairing in South African history on Saturday when they combined in the midfield for the 30th time in Test. Erasmus also announced that a handful of players would be released from the 39-man squad to appear in the Carling Currie Cup matches this weekend. The players who will be released will be confirmed tomorrow and will rejoin the squad on Sunday. In cricket, the Proteas women were bowled out for 84 in 17 overs in the third and final T20 against India women today. Remember, India won the toss and they elected to bat first. They're currently sitting on 53 for no loss after 7 overs. Not looking good for South Africa. Now India just need 32 runs in 75 balls for a win. Then in athletics South Africa have launched Project Relay following a disappointing performance at last year's World Senior Championships in Budapest. The relay teams have struggled with proper baton exchanges, often making mistakes of school-level errors. And in response, Athletics South Africa President requested funding from the SA Sports Confederation and Olympic Committee for a training camp, which has since resulted in 2 successful camps in Tshwane and Potchefstroom. Next week, the 4x100 meter and 4x400 meter teams will head to Montpellier, France for a 2-week training camp as part of the ongoing project.
As said, we sat down with SASCOC and we explained to SASCOC to say, please, we have done our part from your party just to be able to sponsor this because we're giving the athletes back to you. Now you have to play your part in terms of putting the camp together. They've agreed to say, no, it's good for us, and then we're going to put that one. From our side, we have played our part. We handed back the athletes back to SASCOC, but SASCOC give us a surety that now the team is everything is 100%. They are going to pay everything, so we are very excited.
That is Athletics South Africa President James Molloy. Then in football, head coach Gavin Hunt has signed a 2-year contract extension with SuperSport United. Thulani Hlatshwayo also put a pen to paper on a 1-year extension with Gape Marole, Belal Baloyi and Rampani Lungu renewing by 2 years. Then in athletics, 2-time Olympian Renee Karma, who represented South Africa at the 2008 and 2012 Olympic Games, is quite confident that the women's marathon team will showcase exceptional talent. Gerda Steyn will make her second Olympic appearance. Yvette van Zyl will compete in her 4th Olympics, and Sian Oldno will make her debut. Now, Kalma believes that this trio will perform absolutely well in the 42.2 kilometer event on the 11th of August, the final day of the world's biggest sporting event in Paris.
I think they are all great runners and they don't really need my advice. We are really sending a very strong team to the Olympic Games, and I'm so excited to watch them and to support them, and I'm also excited for them. Their hard work over the years has paid off. Like, it's the ultimate goal to go to the Olympic Games for any athlete. So it's a dream came true for all of them. Like, it's Yvette's 4th Olympic Games, Gerda's 2nd, and Charlie's making a debut there. So I think just have gratitude for how far you've come. It takes a lot of blood, sweat and tears, a lot of sacrifices to get there. And not everybody is so lucky to represent their country at the Olympic Games. So go out there, have fun and just appreciate and soak the moment.
Well, talking about Olympics, there's 17 days to go, and there's a runner by the name of Mehdi Frere who is from France and was selected to compete in the Paris Olympics. He has now been banned for 2 years for breaching anti-doping rules, according to his lawyer. He was attempting to appeal that ban at the Court of Arbitration and believes a decision before the Olympics could be possible. Frere is accused of missing 3 anti-doping tests in a space of a year, and it's called whereabouts offense because when they need to test you, you need to make yourself available to be tested. Now we want to see if he will go and compete at the Paris Olympics. Only time will tell.
Okay, yeah, well, and it's coming up pretty soon. How do you think we'll do? I mean, I know it's early days, but just quick thoughts in South Africa and like the medal prospects.
I think we're going to get a medal or two in athletics, definitely. I'm hoping that we actually are going to get a medal or two in swimming, because I feel like they always do well. In terms of other fields, though, I'm hoping at least we get a medal in terms of the rugby sevens. Even though they haven't really
win it the last time, right? Surprise. Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll just have to wait and see.
Well, absolutely, but I hope we get more medals. I mean, like, remember that time Josiah Tugwani won the marathon, like from nowhere, because nobody expected it on the last day. I think it was the Olympic Games in Atlanta, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, that was glory days. Let's bring them back. Certainly one more of that on all fields in South African sport. And then have super fans to cheer them on. Yeah, you get my point, right? Okay, let's get, thanks for that. Oh, you better say your goodbyes.
Alrighty, I am Tumin Kapele, Mudimukyo.
There we are. Right, let's get to the markets now, as we normally do around this time, with Jimmy Moyai as bringing us the MoneyWeb market update. Hi, Jimmy.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Good afternoon to me. Good afternoon to the listeners. Certainly a very interesting day on the markets. It seems as though things have been slowing down rather over the last couple of days. We saw big movements last week. We saw a lot of optimism. We're seeing that markets are retracing a bit. Second consecutive day of very little movement in the right direction. The Rand continues to hold its ground. But before we get to those market movements, let me give you a sense of what we'll be looking at on the show a little later on. We're going to be having a couple of conversations around some of the developments that we've been keeping an eye on. We've got a conversation with the Financial Intelligence Center around their latest travel rule directive. It's a rule aimed at ensuring greater transparency and adding to the efforts that we are seeing to get off that grey list. So I've got a conversation with the managing director, or the acting managing director of the Financial Intelligence Center around that to unpack what this new travel rule directive is that they've come up with. Then we've got a conversation with the guys at Old Mutual around a very interesting statement that they've made around the contributing factors towards inflation. They seem to believe that the government is the biggest contributor to why we have elevated inflation levels. So I'm going to have an interesting conversation around that and try and understand what's happening there. Then there's a conversation with the team at PEP, or Paxi rather, around their latest Paxi business offering. And then because it is Tuesday, we either have Property Tuesday or Agri Tuesday, and this week is Property Tuesday's turn. We're going to be taking a look at the fact that home prices or house prices have increased almost 900% in the last 30 years, certainly tying in with the inflation conversation that we had been having. So going to be interesting to see what those driving factors are and how it's been such a big increase. Certainly the consumers have been feeling it on the pocket side of it, but we're going to look at this and just measure housing prices from the last 30 years of democracy in South Africa and how they've been affected. As I said, the markets have been moving, and Henko Creer has been keeping an eye on those markets for us. He joins me now to do a quick summary of what's been moving those markets. Good evening, Henko. Thanks as always for taking the time. I see the Rand is a little stronger, but we did close out in negative territory. It seems as though on the equity side of it, markets might be getting a little nervous again.
Absolutely, Jimmy. Good evening to you, Jimmy, and good evening to all of our listeners. Yes, and that was also the case overseas, especially in Europe, because the FTSE 100 in London finished 0.7% weaker today. The DAX in Germany lost 1.5% today. And then the CAC 40 in France, but that's because of the politics and the political turmoil that they're experiencing there in France at the moment. The CAC 40 lost 2% today. In the US, a bit of a better picture with the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ trading about 0.1% stronger. But the Dow Jones is also weaker. That's about 0.2% down. And then a similar story about us, where we also, the JSE's All-Share Index closed 0.2% weaker at a lower level of 80,620 points. The Industrial Index also finishing 0.2% weaker, the Financial Index 0.3% down, and the Resources Index 0.1% weaker. Some of the companies that gave strong performances today were Italtile, WBHO and Aspen. Italtile gained 3%, followed by WBHO, which finished 2.5% up, and Aspen, which finished 2% stronger. Old Mutual and Tsogosan also gained 2% each, and Clicks and DRD Gold each finished the day 1.5% stronger. But on the negative side, Supergroup lost 3.5%. We Buy Cars and Woolies, those two companies finished the day 3% weaker. ARM and Amplatz each lost 2.5%, and Bytes, Vodacom and Tungela 2% down at the end of the day. If we have a look at the 10 largest companies on the JSE, only 2 out of these 10 finished in the green. Those 2 were British American Tobacco and BHP. They gained about 0.5% today, but the other 8 companies, they each lost about 0.5%. Then if we have a look at the exchange rate, most of the day it stayed stable against the US dollar and was trending around 18 Rand and 10 cents to the US dollar, similar to how it opened this morning, but now sliding to 18 Rand 15 cents to the US dollar, then 19 Rand 62 to the euro, 12 Rand 20 to the Australian dollar, and 23 Rand 20 to the pound. On the commodities market, the price of gold is $2,350 an ounce. Silver is still sitting comfortably at $30.50. Platinum is trading at $983 and palladium at $978 an ounce. The oil price is $85.30 a barrel. And then lastly but not least, the price of a Bitcoin now sitting at $57,200, and there is still 1,060,000 Rand. And Jimmy, that's how the markets performed.
Thank you very much for that update, Henku. We've got a lot to look into. Certainly, markets might seem a bit quiet, but obviously we know that there are a couple of things coming out or that we are expecting to get, like the testimony from Fed Chair Jerome Powell over the next 2 days. We're going to be keeping an eye on these and other stories, but we'll be back a little later on. For now, Ashraf, back to you and the team.
Thanks for that, Jimmy. And by the way, just talking about taxes and money, so we'll chat to Yolisa Diasi around the issues of using tools, i.e. artificial intelligence tools and others around filling in your tax returns. It is tax filing season as we know.
The Market Update, Monday to Thursday, 6 to 7 p.m.
Want to stay ahead of the financial game? Join us tonight from 6 to 7 p.m. for an insightful journey through the day's market developments, financial updates, and investment news. Tune in for your daily dose of financial intelligence as we navigate the twists and turns of the financial landscape with expert insights. Only on the SAFM Market Update.
SAFM Market Update with Jimmy Muyaha. You are listening to the National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
Right, so it is SARS tax season, and we're not going to discuss taxes in detail. No, that's not the plan. Although my guest, Yolisa Diasi, is a technical consultant at the South African Institute of Taxation. What we are doing is looking at the tools that you use or you can use now, especially with the advanced technology that we find ourselves in the world. And therefore, it's part of the innovation hub that we talk about every single day. So, Yolisa, good chatting to you. You're on the National Pulse.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. So, of course, the work of having your taxes returns filed, that's one thing. But the enabler, the how you can do it, is what you're going to help us with, right?
Yes, no, 100%.
All right, so go ahead and give us some advice.
Okay, so we do know that the filing season will be opening on Monday, the 15th of July. And there are really 3 main ways that taxpayers can submit their tax returns this year. The first being the traditional e-filing system, that I think majority, over 95% of taxpayers actually use. Some may also use the SARS mobile app that SARS introduced a few years ago. And we do know that some of our taxpayers aren't necessarily technologically advanced and may not be using e-filing or the mobile app. They are also able to still go to the physical branch and be assisted by a SARS consultant to submit those tax returns. So those are the 3 ways that SARS is actually making available to accept tax returns this filing season.
Okay. And some of the specifics, I mean, I take it that, many people are not so tuned into technology and therefore tend to stay away from those things. I mean, some of the specific enablers you can guide us with?
So In terms of the technology, SARS has already made it very easy, it's simple to actually submit a return. If we look, example, if we go on e-filing, yes, as much as people are not technologically advanced, SARS has already used third-party data and artificial intelligence to collect data and pre-populate a lot of the information. So for taxpayers, it's moved away from just the collection of data and completing the return and doing all of that, and has become more of a verifying process, verifying that the information that has already been collected from third-party data, from the banks and all those types of institutions that are on the return are actually correct. And we're looking at, for example, auto assessments that have an almost 95% accuracy rate. So SARS has made use of artificial intelligence and third-party data to actually meet taxpayers halfway, specifically those who aren't necessarily technologically advanced.
Interesting. I mean, so outside of the returns, right? I mean, the other thing linked to this, and this is an important one, about people budgeting and therefore using again new forms of technology, be it artificial intelligence or different apps that you can guide us in terms of suggest what we should be using.
Okay, I think primarily the first one would always be the original, which is the e-filing. But there are other third-party providers like your Texton, your Sage, your GreatSoft, who can actually calculate tax returns or calculate tax liabilities or refunds before the filing season opens. So you see larger corporations or your high net worth individuals using those systems before the filing season even opens to actually populate their returns.
Okay, anything else you'd like to add to this before I let you go?
Yes, as much as SARS is using artificial intelligence, we know that human intelligence still does reign supreme. So as much as these returns are populated, we do urge people not to take everything at face value. The human intervention is still very important, even if it's verifying or resubmitting the return. Go back, a lot of people would have already been auto-assessed between the 1st and the 14th of July. Use that period to make sure that the information is actually correct, because it's not to say errors do not occur simply because technology has been used.
And that's where we're going to leave it. Appreciate your time. You're Lisa Diasi, a technical consultant at the South African Institute of Taxation. Thank you for that. Right. We're going to talk about other issues. We chatted early on with Ibrahim Patel, the past president of the Minara Chamber, about KZN Durban 3 years after the riots. We'll get another take on that, chatting to the CEO of the Durban Chamber of Commerce and Industry in a moment.
X at SFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda.
Right, so let's chat now to Palesa Pili, who's the CEO of the Durban Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Palesa, appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us on the National Pulse.
Thank you very much, Ashraf. Good evening to you and good evening to your listeners at home.
Thank you. I mean, I had a chat with Ibrahim Patel from the Durban region, part of the Minara Chamber, and he made the point about the sense of resilience that the people of, whether it's Durban or the greater KZN, have displayed in KZN in that region to be able to bounce back from the economic deficits of 3 years ago. You concur with that?
I absolutely concur. I mean, we've gone through so many challenges. I mean, you've seen from COVID-19 to the unrest that happened exactly 3 years ago on this day, and then followed by the floods and, the various challenges that we've been having as a province. But the most important thing is that the resilience from especially the business sector and the people of KwaZulu-Natal as a whole is that, this is our province, the most beautiful province that is in the country. That's what we believe. And we're not going to let it go down. We're going to fight for it and make sure that everything gets fixed.
So in not letting it go down, what have you done? And I speak in plural terms, every one of you.
So there's a lot of things that have happened. Look, let me just share with you, Ashraf. I mean, there's been a lot of challenges. We're not there yet. We're still in very serious challenges. So to reflect back on exactly where we are is starting to say, where did the destruction go? where are we, and have we been able to recover as a province and as a city? So my answer there is no. We have not been able to recover, especially in the townships, in rural areas where most of the destruction happened. They found that most of the entrepreneurs in those towns did not have insurances, and when their businesses were destroyed, it was goodbye, and those jobs were lost. And also, when you look at also other black entrepreneurs in summary, quite a lot of them did not have insurance, and their businesses, the life savings and everything went down the drain with the looting of the businesses. As a chamber, as the Durban Chamber of Commerce and Industry, what we did try and do is we had a partnership with Old Mutual Foundation, with it's just a few, it was just literally just a few of those businesses where, with the help of Old Mutual Foundation, they were able to, give them money to restore the businesses that were destroyed. But that was not enough. I mean, if you drive into any of our townships right now, you'll find a lot of shops open, closed. People really scared of doing business in the townships, and more unemployment, which is not what we want to be seeing in our province.
Yeah, it's a good point. What's the last thing, just to end with, what's the next thing that you'd like to pay attention to? I mean, we've had provincial changes and changes within the city, and that's, I'm talking about Durban specifically. What's the one thing you'd like to address as a matter of urgency because of priority?
So it's not one thing, Ashraf. So we were very fortunate that about 4 months ago, before the elections, we had an engagement with the President Cyril Ramaphosa. He established a work group for eThekwini with the Durban Chamber of Commerce and Industry directly, where business has a say in terms of what are the issues. So we have 4 key issues as the business community that we need to be addressed very urgently by the President, because we all know that government needs to give us an enabling environment in order for us to create the much needed jobs that are required due to this high unemployment that we have. So the first thing that we're really looking for government to do is making sure that they fix and upgrade the water, sanitation and distribution of electricity infrastructure. Second thing, safety and security, especially after the unrest is very, very critical, because right now the business confidence is very, very still low. We're still always edgy, especially when it comes to anything happening. I mean, right now with the elections, we really appreciate the support that we receive from SAPS. More specifically, I'd like to outline General Mkhwanazi and his team, including General Makoba, where they really worked very closely with business and private sector to make sure that we're ready for the elections. We don't have any unrest. We don't have anything that can actually threaten anything of the businesses. So that's number 2. Number 3, the business confidence, very, very important, and we need to actually improve it. From the infrastructure issues as well as the security issues, it's very important that we improve the business confidence.
And it needs to be upgraded or improved very, very quickly. I mean, I certainly get that. But let's leave it at that.
And then the last one,
yes,
if I can just finish off,
thank you,
is tourism. So we need to make sure that our tourism gets revitalized and we have more tourists, like what we saw happening right now with the Durban July this past weekend. So those were the 4 key areas that we wanted the President to look at. To go back to business confidence, it also includes corruption, where we're saying corruption needs to be addressed in our city.
Okay, point made, point taken. Thank you for your time. Palesa Pili, the CEO of the Durban Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Right, let's get to some of the calls and WhatsApps that we've got. In fact, talking about Durban or KZN, here's a comment.
Right, and your team. I remember the looting you're talking about. My name is Sandile. I'm in Durban. Yes, the looting you're talking about, I remember it very well. In fact, I can't even forget it, because I lost my business. I had 5 guys working for me. They looted and stole everything, my machines, everything. So I lost everything on that day, or on that looting. Anyway, thank you for the good show. As always, take care. Bye.
There we are. I'm so sorry about, the impact it's had. That's the thing when it comes to whether it's political issues, whether it's unrest and activism or lack of activism, and people have philosophical points of view on many things. What we often forget, it comes down to the people. When a person says, I lost my business, that is the real reality of how it affects the people. Luvo in Quebec, hi.
Hi, Ashraf.
Yeah, how's it, man?
Good, man. Ashraf.
Yeah.
Gaten McKenzie is spot on.
Uh-huh.
Spot on. We need like a more ministers like him, people who are transparent, so that we can know what's going on. We can know what are the ministers' plans, so that the country can debate about those things. They can see their work. We can judge them on that. Because there's a lot of secrecy currently. We don't even know what the minister, like for the past 30 years, it was hard to know what the ministers, what are their plans. And then at the end of the day, we can be able to come back and say, you said at that particular day your plans A, B, C, D, but you failed to do so.
Well, I agree with you. There needs to be an annual report, and we don't actually have an annual report. Absolutely right. Lubo, thanks for that call. Well, someone said to me, and I'll repeat this one to say, you know why Gaten McKenzie is going to make such a good minister? Because he's not ministerial material. I'll leave it at that in terms of what you make of that. But the point is, he's from the outside, and therefore there's a very different perspective in terms of the way things are done, right? Here's another one about electricity.
Hi, Ashraf. I'm Hafildin from the Western Cape. I think over the last 100 days, we have had consistent and full energy into our household and in the whole community. With the exception of this weekend, on Sunday, we had some outage, but that was due to the storms here in the Western Cape. Thank you.
Okay, let me just squeeze this last one in there.
Ashraf, what is so difficult for ESCOM to go house to house in every region, in every ward, in every village and township and whatever, to remove this what do we call them, illegal connections, and install a different meter that cannot be bypassed and all those things? What is so difficult? Because now, if 5 people or 10 people in a certain section are bridging and they're using too much power, now everybody's affected. They will suffer from load reduction. I mean, it's unfair to people who buy electricity.
But I think thank you for that. I think it's a point well made, but it's not just ESCOM. There's ESCOM and there's also the police and there's also the community, right? So what is the role of the community when they know that these things are happening all of the time? Well, that's it for the show. That's the National Pulse, and I see the weather's still bad all around the country. But you keep it in mind in terms of what for you are the big issues that moves the National Pulse. Feel free, even now, you can comment on our vote lines, my Twitter X profile together with SAFM. Send your comments. We'll pick it up. As for the team, thanks to Phineas, to me, as well as Keys, Vusani, Chemba, and the newsreaders, Lucille, as well as Madupi, who've been part of the show. We'll do it again tomorrow, 3 to 6. Let's get the news now. It's just gone 6 o'clock.
Thank you very much, Mr. Garda. Safe travels. The top